I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I'll drop the Canva on my Discord, and then I'll go through it here as well, if that's okay with you.
Oh, no, yes. Do you want me to make you big?
Yeah, please, 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 please. Um, all right, let me. All right. So there's just like a number of routes to run on this, but this is my like main tree for the conversation of what is a man. So what's a man? They're gonna give you like one of two answers, and it's good to be prepared for both, just so you're not like surprised. They might give you like a completely incoherent definition, in which case yeah, I don't know. You should use like rhetoric on them. You should posture. You should, if their definition is incoherent, you should be pointing it out. Or they'll say like an adult human male. From this, what you want to ask is what is the defining trait of males? And there's like a lot of different answers that they'll give. They might give like incoherent nonsense, in which case, again, the answer is always to make fun of them, posture. Say like, wow, that doesn't make any sense. Like you're saying gibberish. There is a number of things that they might tell you. So they might go with the like Wolferian developmental structure, which is like just like the anatomy having the like male structure, I believe. The answer to this is complete androgen insensitivity. These people are born with both Wolferian and Mullerian structures, which means that they would need to classify these people as both male and female. The scientific community largely classifies them as male, or like exclusively classifies them as male, which means that they're literally just going against science at that point. Every single time, if they ever bite the bullet, you just say like, okay, cool. So you're like the scientists are wrong, basically. So you're just saying that the scientists are wrong. They might say testicles. The answer to that is congenital anorchia. Some males are born without testicles, so they would need to classify these people as not males. They might say XY chromosomes. Of course, this misclassifies people with XX male syndrome. It also misclassifies people with Swyer syndrome. There's people who were assigned female at birth who have XY chromosomes, and people who were assigned male at birth with XX chromosomes. That means that chromosomes could never be the determining factor. They might go with like the genitalia. There's certain people with ovotesticular syndrome that don't fall solidly into like the male category, but still have the genitalia regardless. There's also people who have aphalia who do fall solidly in the male category, but do not have the genitalia. It's like a smooth surface. In terms of small gametes, this one is like I think this is like a really bad argument. I think all of them are really bad arguments, but this one is especially because there's like gonna come a time where most people just don't produce small gametes anymore. But specifically, people who are born with azoospermia, these people don't have any. They don't produce small gametes at all. People with congenital anorchia don't have testicles and thus don't have small gametes at all. There is so that's just going to be the defeater for that one. I've heard like some people will say like hormonal cycle, that it's like, well, if you have like the male or the female hormonal cycle, which is like just ridiculous because that means that like trans men on testosterone are men. Like good for them. Like trans rights W, I suppose. Good for them. SRY gene, this was Christie's criteria. There's like two main problems. First is that there's SRY negative people with 46XX male syndrome. These are people that are considered male, assigned male at birth, and yet they are negative for the SRY gene. They do not have an SRY gene. There's also people with, I think, Swyer syndrome, but it's like 46XY complete gonadal dysgenesis. And I believe that these people are SRY, like they do have the SRY gene, but they're like considered to be assigned female at birth. So there's like this would include people you don't want it to include, and you would exclude people that you probably do. I do have like just like some random thoughts. I think that maybe a good question to ask would be like, do you think that all males have this? Just to like really like get them down on it. I think the true answer to the question of what is a male, a male is just going to be like a cluster of characteristics. There is no necessary and sufficient condition. I have never heard of a good necessary and sufficient condition, but the problem with a cluster trait is that I don't think cluster traits are per se fit for exclusion, or if they are, it's going to be extraordinarily arbitrary. And I could also like concoct scenarios that would like defeat this. So some people might say like, well, you need to have like a majority of like having the SRY gene, or like the right chromosomes and the right gametes and the right like genitalia. But of course, like if you there's like first of all, some of these things can like just be changed. But additionally, if people just had like a conjunction of disorders that would also like misclassify them. So this really does just kick the can down the road. Also, like again, these traits aren't like probably not like fit for exclusion. They're gonna give you like one of a few answers. All of them at this point, all of their answers are like genuinely really terrible, like actually awful. So they might say like, well, we're not talking about intersex. Like they kind of fall under like roughly the same category. Two of them do. People will be like, oh, well, we're not talking about intersex people. That's fine. But what we are talking about is like the categorization. We're talking about categories that these people are saying are universal. If their categories aren't universal, then I'm genuinely curious on what grounds we're possibly excluding trans people. I have no idea how we're excluding trans people with our non-universal criteria. So in that case, like the existence of intersex people, even though these are like medical conditions, if the transphobe is saying that what it takes to be a male or a female is like XYZ thing, and you don't have like these people don't have XYZ thing, then they need to answer why this person would be considered a male at all. In which case, they need to concede their definition by defending a different trait. In which case, it's the same process. You just go through it again and give them the counterexamples. In terms of the they might say of the nature, this argument's terrible. Like they might say like of the category of the nature, organized in order to do XYZ. That's really stupid. So first of all, and this isn't on the flowchart, but what you should be asking them is, how do you know if you're of the nature? There's not a good answer to this. There's no way to know if someone is of the nature without appealing to a different trait. If they appeal to a different trait, then you get to hit them with this long line of things as to why the trait that they gave is insufficient. So of the nature is really bad. I also do have a specific objection because, and it's like more philosophical, but I do think it's true that this assumes the existence of like universal ideals, which is just like not in line with biology, because it presupposes like a Platonic idealism of what a man and a woman should be, and Platonism is fucking nonsense. So like science is rooted pretty heavily in like empiricism and materialism, both of which are like fairly antagonistic towards the idea of like Platonism. This like talk about bodies being like organized towards like a specific end or a purpose or like a telos, this just doesn't really exist in like the biological literature. Science, remember, is empirical, and empirics, remember, are just a process of observation. That with our senses we are able to see something. You can't see what something should have been. You can only see what it is. So it's all just going to be like pretty ascientific. They might run that's an exception. Extremely common, really bad argument. There's like a couple of things. So first of all, you should always be preferring the definitions with no exceptions. I'm of the belief that I don't have a single exception for my definition. I've never heard a good exception, like a reason, like a group that my definition excludes, or a group that should, like, that it wrongly includes. So we should always just be preferring the definition with no exceptions. But additionally, I think the bigger problem, and this isn't on there, it's like kind of on there, but I like worded it weird. The bigger problem is that this is just a misunderstanding of logic. If someone is positing a universal rule, they're saying that this is going to be true of all members in the class. You can't have exceptions. That's incompatible. You can't both say that this applies to everyone, and also there are some people that this doesn't apply to. You can't say that like all men have XY chromosomes, and also there are some men who don't have XY chromosomes. It's just completely incompatible. On face, like a fundamental misunderstanding of logic. The two analogies that I use is that if we had like 8,000 grapes that are red and like 3 green grapes, would we say that the defining characteristic of all of these grapes is being red? Of course not, because there are 3 green grapes. Alternatively, we could say that like, well, 7 isn't a number, because if you like put aside the one exception, the number 7, then 7 isn't a number. Like it's like an equally ridiculous argument. Like there's exceptions. That's an exception is just a like fundamental failure to track logic. So that's how you deal with, and this is dropped in my Discord, by the way. You need to join via a web link, so you go into tiktok.com and you go to allegedly.ian to join. But if you want to read through this, have this for yourself, have all of the contentions and like counter examples to everything that they say, this is a great place to do it. It's dropped. It's like openly available. There's like 2 other routes that I want to go down. They're like pretty quick. So what is a man? to me, all that's going to be a man. So a man is just an adult human whose gender identity aligns with the set of social. Or wait, oh, I fucked it up. Wait. Don't read that. I updated my definition. So my new definition is a man is an adult human whose gender identity aligns with the gender societally associated with males. It's basically saying like there's like we have these categories, we have gender categories, and we have a gender identity. Gender identity creates a desire to be gendered in a specific way. That a woman, trans or cis, desires to be gendered as a woman. A man, trans or cis, desires to be gendered as a man. A non-binary person desires to not be gendered as a man or a woman, and this desire results from a gender identity. So, because their gender identity aligns with these specific categories, that means to me that this person is a man or a woman. And this is going to work for 100% of people. There are no exceptions to this definition. Some people might say, like, well, what about like butch lesbians? But these people still want to be gendered as women, fundamentally. They want to be viewed through the lens of the criteria. And that's not the same desire as desiring to fulfill every aspect of the criteria. It's just like a mismatch of terms. And maybe it is unintuitive. That there's like some people who want to be women but don't want to like do all the characteristics associated with being a woman. But of course, like that's just our reality. Like that's just the way things are. There's tons of people who would consider themselves to be women, who are even assigned female at birth, who fulfill not very many of the societal ideals for what a woman is. And these people are still women, of course, under my definition, because they desire to be gendered as a woman fundamentally. Okay, so going down the line specifically.
Ian, I don't mean to, sorry for
No, that's
interrupting
fine.
you,
You're
but,
totally fine. Yeah, you can wrap me
I
up.
just wanted to shout out Manimal in the comments saying that this is absolutely incoherent when we literally just watched your clip debating Ian and like, if you want a definition or an example of incoherent, like watch that clip, please.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was a painful clip. Like it exists for eternity, Manimal. Like it just gets worse from here. Yeah, you wanted to run around being like, well, what's a human? And then you don't even know what a human is. You literally said that you came up with your definition on the spot, which means that you don't have a definition for what a human is either. So if that's a problem for my view, then that's like doubly a problem for your view. But anyway, back to it. So they're going to ask you what a man is. A man is an adult human whose gender identity maps onto the gender societally associated with males. They might say, like, so feminine men aren't men, or like masculine women are men. No, these people are the gender that they desire to be gendered as because they have the gender identity. That's all I'm saying, is that the defining characteristic specifically is having a desire that originates from a gender identity. People desire to be gendered in specific ways. If you have a desire to be gendered as a man, then you're a man. Desire to be gendered as a woman, then you're a woman. That's essentially what my definition is, but it says it in like a non-circular way. But that is like the easiest way to, in my opinion. So they might go and ask you, but like, what are the social traits that are associated with males in our society? Now, this is just a misunderstanding of your definition. You're not saying that the people who are feminine are women and the people who are masculine are men. That's not what you're saying at all. You're like people who are masculine women still have a woman gender identity. Feminine men still have a man gender identity. This is not a problem for your view at all because these people still want to be gendered as men and or women. Zidium, thanks so much for the $1.11 on Cash App. I really appreciate it. I mean, there's like, and yeah, you could like give them like some specific stereotypes, but of course they're going to misunderstand it. So they're going to say some men aren't that, and then you can say, cool, it's still the expectation. What it really is just like having like a desire to be gendered in a specific way. And then finally, there's like the language route, which I think is also really effective. So I think against like bad faith debaters, I think that all you need against like people like Manimal and Christie, you just need like this one, and you need like this one. You need to be able to attack their definition and defend yours, and that's like foundationally all you really need. But against like good faith people, you should run this one. People who you think you might actually be able to have like a pleasant conversation. If you have like a family member who is transphobic, I think that this is like the thing to be run. When a trans man claims to be a man, what do they mean by man? Now they're either going to say an inaccurate account. They're going to say like adult human males, fucking like they think that they were like assigned male at birth, or like something ridiculous. And then the response is like, really, do you actually think that? That's not true. It's like ridiculous to think that a trans man thinks that they're an adult human male, or to think that a trans woman thinks that she's an adult human female. This is just not what these people think. But what they actually do think, and is if they give an accurate account and they say that when someone claims to be a man, they're saying that they have like the gender identity that aligns with it. So if they give the accurate account, you then ask them, and do you think that they fit that criteria? And they might say no, but that's ridiculous, because of course these people have the gender identity. If they didn't have the gender identity, if they didn't have the desire to be gendered in that way, then they wouldn't ask to be gendered in that way. Like their self-ID isn't coming out of nowhere; it's coming out of a desire to be gendered and referred to and like understood in a very specific way. So if they say no, you hit them again with the really, do you actually think that? Do you actually think that trans men, when a trans man claims to be a man, what they're saying is that they have like the gender identity, but you don't think that they have the gender identity? That's ridiculous. That's like just a contradiction of terms. Why would they claim it if they don't have the identity? Or they'll say yes, in which case you reach a great conclusion. Oh, cool. So it sounds like, in the sense they're using the word, that trans men are men. If all a trans man means when he claims to be a man is that he's someone with the gender identity that creates a desire to be gendered as the category, or as the gender societally associated with males, essentially that like if all a trans man means by the word man is that he desires to be gendered as a man, then and that is in fact what he is. That's what he feels. That's what he wants. Then it's true in the sense that a trans man is claiming to be a man. He is a man, and those are the three routes that you'll ever need. The only three routes you'll ever need.
Badass. Thank you for this.
Yep.
That was so good.
All right, let me turn my camera off. But if anyone has any questions, you can ask them here. You can ask them in the Discord. I'd be extremely happy to clarify anything at all.
I'm sure I'll have them. I'll ask them in the Discord.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I'm happy that I'm able to teach more people how to actually like succeed in this debate, because I truly do believe that the trans position is the correct position. Transphobes don't have arguments; they have like misdirections, they have red herrings. I think like every aspect of philosophy supports like the trans, the pro-trans worldview.
Yeah, most transphobe debaters just have no understanding of analytic philosophy whatsoever. Like in your live the other day, Christy had absolutely no idea what even a necessary condition is. And that was just so embarrassing to watch. Like, necessary conditions aren't these things where like it holds true in a lot of cases, but we're complex, so there's a few counter cases. Necessary implies it's true in every single case without any exception. So if there's even one exception, it's not necessary by definition. That's just not how that works.
Yeah, and I was trying to explain this to her, but I don't know. I think people think that their like heuristics are like sufficient replacements for like a rigorous criteria that like I grant that like heuristically, if you like in general want to say that like most men or like most women are going to be adult human females or adult human males, that's fine. That's like just statistically true. Yeah, like the majority of men and women are in fact cis. That's like totally cool. Unfortunately, appeals to like, well, most of the thing is this doesn't actually exclude trans people from the gender that they identify as.
Yeah. I mean, all of the arguments that anti-trans debaters give just stem back in some way to some form of normative linguistic prescriptivism, or just the idea that we ought to use language in a certain way, which is just a really bad position in the vast majority of cases. Normally, it's just ingrained in some sort of appeal to tradition or appeal to popularity. That's like 80% of the responses you'll get are just, you'll have two answers and you're already at a fallacy. So it's generally not too intelligent.
Genuinely. No, this is one of the areas where I do think that critical thinking has really like taken a nosedive on the part of transphobes. I think that they lack complaining and whining about how well that's just like a medical exemption is just a failure to track logic, right? Like you're you can't be saying that all men are this thing, and also that there are some men that are not this thing. It's literally just like saying like A is true and also A is false. It's ridiculous, and they just don't understand it. And I think that that's really pathetic because this is genuinely philosophy 101. I don't think it's possible to take like a philosophy course and come out thinking that like that these are good arguments, and I definitely don't think it's possible to take like an analytic philosophy course or read like a philosophy of language book. Like I'll give a recommendation, and this is like a super basic one. This is like kind of like baseline, like one of the first treatises on language written. It's John Locke's Of Words, or maybe like On Words. And I don't know, like even this is like one of the first treatises on like philosophy of language, and he's saying like, yeah, your words just mean what you like intend them to mean. This is all words are; they just convey your meaning. So
The
yeah.
use theory of meaning.
All the time. I just didn't have a name to put to it.
What?
I use that argument all the time, just didn't have a name to put to it, really.
Yeah, that's just called the use theory of meaning. That's the name of that. If that'll help you find some resources for it. But another good resource for formal logic. There's this self-published textbook. I think the guy's name is Peter Smith. It's just called Intro to Formal Logic. You can find a PDF online for free, and since it's self-published, I think you can get a copy online on Amazon for like $20 or something like that. That's a really good resource.
Yeah. The butchering of logic is like what really gets it for me. I don't know. I wish that, because I feel like there's it comes down to a point where I need to explain like basic logical concepts to people, and to anyone in the audience, if you intend or you plan on going forth and like doing more debates about like trans identity, which I'll give this warning. If you're not good at the debate, probably don't have it in like a public setting, like a TikTok live. If you're like consistently losing the debate, or consistently looking like really bad, or consistently not being able to answer the questions, you probably just need to do like more reading, more research, and maybe get like some better debate skills, because like, you know, these are like real lives. Like trans people are like real people who actually exist. This isn't like losing like a God debate where it's like, okay, whatever. You know, I looked like a fool, but alas, like, you know, it's not the end of the world. Whereas with like the trans debate, when you like lose the debate and when you make the trans position look really silly by not having good arguments, I think that it's like, it does like a genuine disservice to trans people everywhere.
Yeah. I think something that's important to note is that there's really two main routes in these debates on their side. There's the butchering of Logic 101, and then there's just like the absolutely wild like virtue signaling and emotional appeals. And if you're on the other side of those emotional appeals and you don't know how to respond to that, that's probably what slips up like very new debaters the most, just not knowing how to respond to such sophistry and emotional rhetoric.
Yeah. That's like a phenomenal point. And if you rewatch the Christie debate, this is like something that I say explicitly. Christie tries to direct the conversation towards like the pragmatics conversation of like, well, what about all the women and girls who will be hurt by like this sort of like belief system, like when you allow that in. And while it is like just descriptively true that that's not true at all. This doesn't happen. Like if you let trans women into the women's restroom, there's no uptick in the amount of assaults. They don't go in there to assault people. They go in there to do what everyone else goes in there to do. But regardless of that fact, you should remind them, if the topic of conversation is specifically whether or not trans people are valid in their gender identity, i.e. trans men are men, trans women are women, this is not a conversation of pragmatics. The pragmatics of like which like specific spaces should we have like trans men or trans women in is going to be a secondary conversation from our trans men and our trans men and our trans women.
Yeah, it leads back to that.
Yeah. I will say though, I don't know if this is necessarily pushing back on that, but a lot of the times, like utility points are reflected through the prescriptivism that they use. So there's points like we ought to use language in a trans exclusive way because it promotes utility or something like that. So I think that those arguments are something that you have to be able to respond to as well. And that's generally what they're saying. They're very bad arguments.
Oh yeah, wait, that's actually, I feel like that puts them in like an even worse place. Like,
Yeah.
I think like if the I don't even have this on the like flow chart because of how bad an argument that is like on face. If the argument is just like, should you gender trans people correctly? It's just like a statistical bloodbath for them. Like, make them answer.
exactly.
Actually, like force them to answer why any of this is more important than trans lives. If there's no uptick in the number of like assaults in bathrooms, there's no uptick in like the assaults in like prisons, but there is an like if you force trans people out of these spaces, there is like they're massively more likely to be assaulted, and like a trans woman in a men's prison is like crazy more likely to be assaulted. A trans woman in a men's bathroom is like insanely more likely to be assaulted. But they're not more likely to like assault people if you just let them into the correct bathroom. So I don't know, like it typically comes down to like, in my experience, it comes down to like, should we have them in locker rooms where they make people uncomfortable? And should we have them in like sports where sometimes they win? Make them explain to you why trans lives are worth less than like sports trophies and slight discomfort.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I was
Sorry.
gonna, sorry, I was just gonna say that I do like to flip the logic when they say that, you know, females in the women's restroom, males in the men's restroom. I go, okay, what about trans men then in the women's restroom? And like people will be either just like go to the point of I forget the philosophical term for it. Well, they'll push it to be like, yeah, absolutely, there's no issue with that. And I'm like, really? So we have no issues with trans men who are very obviously men going into the women's restroom? You don't think that this will cause like issues or anything? They're like, no, because they're female. It's like, are you checking? Like, how do you know? It's just, to me, it just seems very like, to remain logically consistent, and they go to a point that's absolutely absurd.
No, and that's like very true because like I guess like the flip side is that you're gonna have trans men who are winning like women's sports because they're literally on testosterone. Like behind every trans woman that these people wish to force into the men's bathroom or like into men's sports is a trans man being forced into the like women's restroom and into women's sports where he is wildly out of place.
When I bring trans men into the sports argument, I get one of two responses. I either get we should have a league of our own, or trans men should be in the men's league. It's
Bro, that's crazy.
Yeah, I would also say that like when I bring up the fact about like trans men, like should they be competing in women's sports, they'll go, well, they have to go off of testosterone. I'm like, okay, so then we're forcibly detransitioning people to be able to play in sports. That seems to be like counterproductive at this point. You just don't want trans people in sports.
Yeah. That's like the real position is that they actually don't care. They want trans people nowhere in society. That's like the true position that they actually believe.
Yeah, it's all a cover. All the emotional arguments, all the utility arguments are very often based in nothing and are just a cover for latent transphobia that they're able to portray in a way that looks somewhat good to people who have no idea what they're talking about and hold the same biases. Very good to preaching to the choir.
I'm gonna drop. Thank you for having me, Kenzie. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Hey, it was so nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was amazing meeting you, Ian, and I cannot wait to join your Discord.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ian, we've never met. I've just started watching your content, and I appreciate you doing the flowchart because I talk from a more layman's term sense. But I was following your argumentation. I knew exactly where you were going the entire time. It was just entertaining to watch because I was like, oh, well, this is how I respond to that question. And they were like, no, I'm just like, the fact is that biology is simply messy. And to try to like paint it as black and white frustrates me to no end.
Definitely.
I mean, you even prove it like this. Like I've even gotten to links of finding. I have a couple of unique, like intersex conditions where they found like of a case of a person who was considered to be like phenotypically male, but I can't remember which intersex condition they had, but they showed signs of possible ovulation. And it's like, and still people will just be like, nope, they're male because of this, and I'm like, but there's more. It's not just this. It's like phenotypical, genotypical, and neurotypical sex. You have to look at all three of them.
Yeah, yeah, and this is exactly what Josh is talking about, that it's just like a fundamental butchering of logic, that it's like the so the characteristic that we're going to go with is just like whatever like ad hoc gets me to the conclusion that I want it to get me to. It could be one of any traits depending on which one makes my position coherent, and it's just like completely ad hoc.
Kiara.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to.
Kiara, oh, listen, Kiara here. Sorry, you guys.
Oh my gosh, it's Dr. Blitz.
Is that Athena? Hey, what's up?
Colin. Hi, everybody.
Someone has an echo.
No, I
Howdy,
haven't
howdy.
spoken to Athena.
It's not me. Is it me? Is it me? Am I the problem?
No.
No, you're not the problem.
Always.
Please, shut up. No, hi, everybody, though. So, I wanted to say something. First of all, amazing debate, Ian, as per usual. That was
Thank you.
literally amazing. I think my favorite part of the debate was how like you shut Manimal up. The speak if like you are like a child abuser part. That one was chef's kiss. What I also did wanted to say is like to the people in the comments, if I'm gonna kind of like do mod duties, even though I'm not a mod on this particular account. This is my secret account. Nobody tell anybody. Shh. But exactly. If you, yeah, it's okay. They can all keep a secret.
Okay.
I trust them. But if you have any questions for like Ian, just ask them in the comments, especially if you can't come up. And I will be, me or like one of the mods would be happy to ask them your questions so they can answer your questions while they're still here.
Yeah.
So like Ian is incredibly intelligent and you've like literally seen them debate. So
Aw, thank you.
if you have any questions, like use the chance now to ask them that question.
Oh, someone asked me, am I single? Yeah, but I don't know. It might change.
Well-
We'll see.
Not the point.
Whoa, I didn't see that comment. You just wanted to say that.
No, I swear to God, it was there.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't worry.
Yeah. Currently single. I have a feeling it might change soon, though. We'll see.
Yeah, so I bench press. No, just kidding.
Yeah, Ian, what's your bench?
That's a good ass question. I think I'm coming up on the 2 plates. Probably like 210 is where I'd max out.
Lit.
I'm sorry, Dr. Blitz.
Yeah, he's also 6'2".
No, I'm 7'8". I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
7'8".
You, if you balls listening, I'm 7'8".
7'8"? Nuh-uh.
I'm also 6'2". Like I'm like 5'2", 5'3", but if you round it up, it becomes 6'2". So per.
You know what? Same, Athena. Also round 5'2", but when you round it up, 6'2".
I'm the tallest person here, though, so.
Flow really going dumb, no. Yeah, shout out to Jimmy D. Bitch, you know the hated history. I be stacking all these fucking bands, man. Fucking body pussy nigga dissing me. Yeah.
Someone else wants to go live, let the people know.
There was actually one question in the comments that was asked by a couple people. Maybe you might have explained it in the beginning, but
Yeah.
if you don't mind, you could explain it again. And that is with regards to like pronouns. Do pronouns reaffirm a person's gender or do they not?
It's going to be like person dependent. What makes someone feel like gendered correctly is going to be different from person to person because everyone understands gender differently and everyone wants to be understood as their gender differently. Some people don't care about pronouns. Like I don't experience dysphoria, so if someone like misgenders me, it's like not the end of the world. It's like whatever. But whereas like some people do care a lot about it and they want to be understood as like like precisely a man or precisely a woman and like nothing other than a man or a woman, and they feel very strongly about this desire to be gendered correctly, that is what's going to be like determinant for them. So in these cases, pronouns are almost certainly going to be really important to them. But it's really just going to depend on the person. Some people care a lot about pronouns. Some people don't care about pronouns at all. In my experience, the average trans person is going to care like a moderate amount. Like they want their pronouns respected. But if you like fuck up and then correct yourself, then it's like whatever. Yeah, like life moves on. I don't know anyone who's gonna the stereotype of like did you just misgender me because you used like the wrong pronouns? Like or like holding like a long-term grudge or trying to cancel someone for accidentally mixing up pronouns just doesn't happen. Mistakes happen. Trans people know this. They've been experiencing it all their lives. Most trans people are just going to be happy that you're trying to get it right at all. I think someone asked, are you non-binary? Yeah, I am. Yep, I am non-binary.
And sorry, go ahead, Athena.
No, you go ahead first.
I had talked about that before y'all got here, because I think Athena was the first person to tell me your pronouns are they, them, and I kept seeing it in the comments when we started live streaming. And I will say that is something that I'm having to correct in terms of my subconscious. If you see someone who is masculine presenting, if you hear someone who's masculine presenting, or vice versa, your brain just kind of goes into autopilot and it just comes out. So
Definitely.
Yes.
I think I struggled with this a lot. I remember the very first time one of my friends was like dating someone who was non-binary, and I was hearing like all these stories about them, and they had like a very gendered name. So it was just like confusing because I was using the wrong pronouns for them like all of the time. But I think my personal strategy that helps me like gender people correctly like very often is that if it's someone that I'm like associated with like pretty closely, then I will just like consider them when I'm like saying sentences about them in my head. I will make sure and I'll correct myself if I like in my head use the wrong pronouns for them. And it's just like about like associating the pronouns to the person. And if you do that, you'll be like completely golden. There's like, it's to the point where, I don't know, like to me, it's like very natural and intuitive to now just like go off of whatever pronouns people, like self-identify as, and there's like no problem with that.
I mean, from like a cis perspective, I feel like what helped me a lot is just to use they, them more in my everyday lingo. Like even because I mean, it's like it's a neutral thing, right? Like you can just use it. And I feel like I've adapted it so much in my language that now it's not as hard for me anymore to like adapt that.
And that's what I was going to say as well, is that with conscious effort, it does take time, but it's really not hard to overcome just these subconscious things that your brain has been conditioned to do. Yeah,
you just gotta talk slower. Like that's what it boils down to. Think before you speak, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you like truly internalize that someone's like pronouns are like whatever, you'll never get it wrong. But you know, be kind on yourself, be gentle to yourself. I've never met the trans person who's, wait, I'm sorry, there's like a huge echo.
Yara is that me?
Yeah.
Is it me? Am I the drama?
Yes, you're the
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
This was too.
I completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, yeah.
Why did you kick Kiara?
Like, because she can rejoin. Jeez.
Why did you kick the only other German like in the panel? Now I feel
Oh,
lonely.
no. German persecution.
Athena, you were in the gulag yesterday, okay?
You know what? Listen, I kind of was, but it's okay. We don't have to talk about why I was in the gulag.
Or you in the gulag.
Yeah,
Rip Germans.
exactly. German persecution. This is literally a question.
No, it's like the meme you sent me last night. Like communists killed my grandfather.
Wait, why did you bring up the Yahtzee meme? That's crazy.
Yeah. I think I was saying Oh yeah, I don't know. Like just yeah, it's what Blitz is saying. Like talk slower. You should also like be kind to yourself. I haven't met the trans person who is going to like genuinely bite your head off for accidentally misgendering them like a single time. Like, you know, just like put in an active effort, and I think every trans person's just going to appreciate that.
I have a quick question because this happens too often to me. I hit either a wall with an op where they won't concede and they won't move forward, or it becomes extremely circular. And so I guess my question would be is that because sometimes I will like give in and be like, okay, let's just move to a different point because you're not going to concede and I want to continue the discussion. But I feel like I shouldn't do that. I should just keep forcing them to either concede or answer the question.
Yeah, wait. So what's the this is where rhetoric becomes essential, is when people are refusing to engage in the debate, or like just making like logic mistakes. I think a really good like basic rhetoric, or at least the rhetoric that I use and I think everyone else can use, is one, stay calm. Always stay calm. You will never look good. Or some people, there's occasions where yelling is like good and beneficial. It's probably never going to be in the trans debate, where they already have like this conception of pro-trans people as being like these like crazy raving lunatics, and you don't want to play into that stereotype. So if you stay calm, you'll never look bad. But additionally, if they're like jumping from criteria to criteria, you just want to point that out to the audience. You want to be like, look at that. Like at first they were defending chromosomes, now they're defending gametes, now they're defending the SRY gene. Like they can't even defend they don't even know what their own definition is. Like you should just be pointing that out to the audience, that like your opponent is confused, that they're not tracking, that they're not following along, that they're like not making a real argument or giving a real criteria. It's like rhetoric is important. It's like easy rhetoric is just like, every time they fuck up, just pointing out that they fucked up. If they refuse to answer a question, just keep on asking it. Say, okay, so like yes or no for like the 8th time, and then like ask your question. Or like for the 6th time, still haven't gotten an answer. What's the necessary and sufficient condition that would differentiate someone as a male rather than a female? Like what's going to be the thing that's true across all males and true across no females? Just like keep on asking those questions and point out that you are asking the question and that they aren't answering it. That's like really good rhetoric.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're still echoing.
Yeah. You really
Can
just
I-
have. Sorry.
Oh, sorry,
That
Josh.
baby has really effed up your mic.
It's communism. It's communism.
It's not affecting me though. I even got the
It's gonna
Communism.
spread. It's gotta spread. Just give it a second.
Okay.
Exactly. I had like 2 questions, one from the comments and then another one like a personal question. Number 1, somebody in the comments said, how can I describe the experience of non-binary in a way my boomer mom can understand? And yeah, I'll answer that one first and I'll ask the second question.
Yeah, so I think that non-binary becomes like very intuitive if you can establish like just the criteria for like man and woman in the first place. That to me, and I think that this is going to be just the only criteria that's going to be true across all men and true across all women. And there's like a non-circular version of this that you can look up in my document, but the easiest way to understand it is that a man is someone who desires to be gendered as a man. A woman is someone who desires to be gendered as a woman. If you understand a man and a woman to be that, then non-binary is just like in the same way that women don't want to be desired or don't desire to be gendered as a man, and men don't desire to be gendered as a woman. Non-binary people don't desire to be gendered as either. They just they want to be understood as something that's like fundamentally different.
Yeah. I just say to avoid certain reductios, I'd say a chronic or persistent desire.
Oh yeah. So I say a desire that results from like a gender identity.
Another question I have is which transphobic debater are you going to take down next?
That's a good question.
Yes. Who's next? Have you ever seen those rap battles?
Yeah. Who won?
You know, at the end, like, who's next?
That's a good question.
Who won? You decide. Like Ian should adopt that voiceover like at the end of every debate.
Yeah, so there's like a couple of Yeah, I think I would say there's like some debaters who I would classify as transphobic, despite the fact that they themselves are trans people, and it's usually because they're like non-binary phobic. So there's like a couple of people, and I don't even know if this would be like a debate or like a slaughter, or like a bloodbath, or what any sort of that, like something that's getting clipped or shipped. But I would love to talk to like Eden the doll about her aversion to non-binary people and like neo-pronouns in general. I would love. There's like one person who I've already I already like kind of crumpled them when I went onto their live, but it was, I think her name is like Natty the Batty, where she's like a trans woman and she's like super NB phobic. So I don't know. I don't think there's any chance she'll ever come onto my live to debate like non-binary people, but if she does, I'd be happy to do that. I've heard the name Nate before. And I've been told that this is like a good person to debate. I have no idea who this is.
Is fucking horrific. Like, he's horrific. He's horrible. And that's just because, Nate
Plays word games.
Nate is a cunt, pardon my French, but that would be good actually to see a takedown of Nate. Another person is Envy. Because Envy is a British, very transphobic person. These are just a couple of suggestions like out there. I don't know if you know them or not.
Athena, do you know that?
Envy.
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it.
Yeah, babes.
No, there's this one lady too. She's also British that is very transphobic, and she has like locks. Like, she's obviously culturally appropriating on top of that.
Yes.
Do you
wait,
know?
I have her photo. 1 second.
Her name's her TikTok's like,
Actually,
Yeah.
I
like
have
Lily.
to show her photo.
Yeah, that's
1
cutie
second,
pie.
because I need to like alter all of y'all's like brain chemistry and show y'all how like literally amazeballs this is. 1 second, where is it?
Can y'all
Yeah,
hear
can you
me?
please make me bigger, Kenzie?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay, sorry, because
Yep.
it keeps showing that I'm muted. I'm like, what's happening?
Can
Oh,
you
yeah,
please
I saw-
make me bigger, Kenzie?
Yep.
I made you bigger.
Oh, he did? Okay. Are y'all ready?
Once
Yeah,
it gets
I hate
bigger,
this
we'll
thing.
Okay,
make
are y'all
this.
ready? Like, again, it will alter your brain chemistry.
Trigger warning.
Ta-da!
Oh my god, yo!
Oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's awful.
See, I debated her.
Wait, who
want
is
to
this?
die.
Who is
This
this?
is Cutie Pie. I debated her on the WPAC leaks. And she was like, I've read every paper and every page. I was like, cool. What about all of these things that are said? She's like, I'm too tired to debate this. I was like, fantastic.
Jump scare warning.
Yeah, I would literally love to like watch Ian take down a dollar store Rachel Dolezal. So I would definitely be for it.
The only thing about some of these people is that they will not leave their platform, and they're always going to have 5, 6, 7 other people who agree with them up. So I've debated them a few times, and it's always like an 8v1. Everyone's yelling at the same time. You're interrupted every 3 seconds. You can't finish a sentence. It's awful in that manner.
Oh, yeah. I got to deal with Martha.
That was one of my best debates when I debated them. I was getting messages about dunking on them and stuff. So.
Yes. The easiest debate would be Martha, Ian, because she just emotionally appeals the entire time.
Oh,
my!
yeah.
She is
I'm like super down for, I'm down for like whatever debates. I think all transphobic arguments are bad. Some people try to like mask like the badness of the argument behind like nuanced language, or perhaps like a sophomore in college level of like philosophy. But I mean, it's all bad. Like at the end of the day, like none of these arguments are very good. Some of them just like say like a lot, like the bad argument, just like a lot more words.
It's just like TikTok philosophy. It's not even academic.
Philosophy.
Yeah.
I do have another question. Oh, no, that's my turn because it's been posed a couple times. And I think it's actually a really, really good question that needs to be addressed within transphobes.
Wait, did you mute?
Oh my God.
Did you mute my baby, Kenzie?
Yeah, I was just talking to the air. That's crazy.
That's crazy.
I don't know
What?
how much you heard, but
That's so cool.
Kenzie,
You
the
were about to explain
German
it. and
phobia
then-
is crazy.
No,
in
it's
here.
not only German phobia. Kenzie being misogynistic and wanting women to like, be silent. That's crazy, Kenzie. Silencing women is crazy from a supposed intersectional feminist. Anyways,
Mackenzie, you're muted. You know that, right?
Mackenzie, you're muted.
Damn it, I muted myself even. Don't even try that, Athena. You know I got the dirt on you. Like, you're just mad that I'm Dutch and you're German and there's animosity because, you know,
The dirt on
nationality.
me is crazy. That's crazy, but okay.
You're crazy!
It's like the misogyny with
Well,
like
go ahead,
Imagine
Kira.
calling a
ways
woman
that you
crazy.
silence your-
Can't believe that I'm surrounded by
I
such
can't hear you,
misogynists.
Athena. I don't know why. Go ahead, Kira.
So much
I'm sorry.
misogyny right
Yeah, this is the rhetoric of hysteria.
Oh, yo.
Fucking, we have red pillars here. I didn't know.
So a good question that is constantly being posed by like transphobes or within like trans debates, you know, when it is brought up that somebody can be intersex, it is referred to as like a disease or disorder. I mean, I have my ways to like address it, but obviously let's hear the big brain version of it. Ian, go ahead.
Oh yeah. This is just it's just a failure of doing logic. So the way that I would explain it in like the simplest terms is that if you're trying to say that the defining characteristic is of all males or females is this thing, but there are males and females who don't have that thing, then it's not actually the defining characteristic. And there's like a great analogy. So let's say that we have 80,000 red grapes and 3 green grapes. Now together we have like 80,003 grapes. Is the defining characteristic of these grapes being red? No, it's not, because there are 3 green grapes, despite the fact that the green grapes are just like a tiny exception to it. They are, regardless, a disproof of the rule. You can't say that these grapes are defined by being red if there are green grapes in this set as well. But they might also be like, this argument kind of branches off into like 2 directions. So another way that people use like that's just like a disorder, that's just an exception, is that they what's like a good way of explaining like Platonism? So
Well, I would say that it's like just phenotypical expressions don't inherently are associated with like a disorder or a disease, because like being redhead is like a rare occurrence, right, in a phenotypic expression, but we wouldn't classify that necessarily as a condition or disorder or a disease. Or
Yeah.
Josh, sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, generally they just hold some form. They just hold some view that's based in Aristotelian or Platonic metaphysics,
Yeah.
like the formatic composition stuff. Just saying that humans have one of 2 forms that they are meant to achieve, either the male form or the female form, and those forms are characterized by the reproductive pathways or something like that. But then there's some rabbit hole maybe you could get in where you ask them to justify Aristotelian or Platonic metaphysics and formatic composition and all that stuff, which they're probably not going to be able to do. And
yeah,
it's normally just rhetoric, but yeah, the average person on TikTok isn't going to justify Aristotelian or Platonic metaphysics or formatic composition or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the other way is that because essentially like what's being said is that the argument that could also be being made is that, well, it was supposed to go one way. It should have been this, but it like because of the disorder, like it was different. You should ask them, how do you know it should have been this? How do you know? How do you know? What trait are you appealing to that is present within this person that indicates that that's that? It's I think that this argument is essentially just like kicking the can down the road a single time, because they'll say like, well, it's someone who's like of the sex, or someone whose like body is organized for producing like large gametes, and then you say that's cool. So the people who don't produce large gametes, what about them? And then they'll be like, well, of the nature, you see, they're of the nature to produce large gametes. Their body is still organized to produce it. And then you ask them, how do you know that this person is of the nature to produce large gametes? How do you know that their body is organized to produce large gametes? What trait is present? So they still need to give you like a specific trait that tells you whether or not they're male or female, no matter what. There's really no way to avoid that. And if they can't tell you, then you just conclude that their definition is incoherent. And to be clear, your position on this should just be like agnosticism. You're agnostic to whether or not there is like a unifying criteria for all males or all females. If one exists, I certainly haven't heard it.
Yeah.
By the way, this
Normally
this
the
argument
argument. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Normally, like an argument you might get from someone who's a bit more philosophically educated is that, in addition to the rational soul, humans have animalistic souls, and one of the ends of the animalistic soul is the end of reproduction. So all humans are tailored towards this end of reproduction because that's the end. That's one of the ends of the animalistic soul that comprises part of the human soul. And in order to achieve that function, one must have one of the two reproductive pathways, meaning that like intersex people, even if we can't know if they fall into one of the categories, do if this notion of Aristotelian metaphysics is true.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say,
That's like I think that. Well, I don't know. I'm very biased against Platonism and like Aristotelianism.
Yeah. I think no one's gonna be able to justify
souls?
that. It's just. I mean, it's a view in metaphysics. It's not something you're going to be able to empirically justify or analytically justify or something like that.
Yeah, but if you're trying to use your metaphysics to implement social change or policy, that's a really tough pill to swallow, and that would be the proper objection there.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's like positing the existence of souls, I think my main argument would be prove it.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like that, I'm just telling you, like that's the route people generally go down, and there will be a lot of sophistry and rhetoric and stuff that kind of avoids certain questions. But yeah, metaphysical views are generally not going to be analytically or empirically justified or something like that.
Yeah,
I was just going to add really quickly, when people bring up like intersex conditions and talk about like deviation from the norm, like this is something that would be expected within like nature. To like it's almost like, to me it feels like a presupposition to say that humans are meant to be this way or this way. We could say they typically are, but to suppose that something quote unquote went wrong is basically dictating that we understand where evolution is going and how nature is going to dictate the evolving of a species.
Yep, retweet. Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I would also say that you don't have to go down the intersex line in order to debate your position accurately. I think I would even suggest to hold off if you're not as educated on intersex conditions, because there's so many and they have like a lot of this biological lingo, like an expressed SRI gene and stuff, and it can be very intimidating. So if you don't feel equipped for that, like it can go wrong easily. You can like just focus more on the psychosocial construct rather than the biological aspects of gender, if that, it's a little bit easier because it's way more philosophical and it resides in logic rather than information that you have to retain.
Yeah, that's true. I think that there's like another, I've never tried this question before because I think that there might be like rhetorical problems with it. But I think that it's like logically really sound. And it's essentially just if tomorrow we discovered that like no matter what biological criteria they give you, if you have no idea what it is, you've never heard it before, a good catch-all question is just if tomorrow we found out that we've been doing biology wrong, that we're just completely wrong about like science and biology, and that like we actually don't like have chromosomes that are like this at all. Like we actually don't have XX and XY chromosomes. We've just been like fucking it up the entire time. Would that mean that like women or men suddenly no longer exist?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Like, I don't see there to be a lot of, ways to go into like this whole transphobia again, because they have to acknowledge, at least to some extent, that there is a social component. And I think you can test them like by also showing other social constructs, right? Like, I think that's what helped me a lot too, like showing how Christianity is a social construct, or even like politics. Like if you identify as a Republican or a Democrat or a leftist or whatever, I think those are usually the places where it clicks, because there are some biological predispositions to be part of a certain group. However, it is like mostly socially constructed and dependent on like your environment, on how you express yourself and which category you fall under.
Oh yeah, I always give this example of like if someone is like on an island, like grew up on an island away from all of human civilization, how are they going to be able to like know what man or woman is and align themselves with this? Because like without this like societal like construct. We can't align with it. It can be innate within us, but like in order for us to align with it, it has to be societally talked about and expressed to align to.
Yeah, but if you put 100 men on an island, how are they going to make new people?
God damn it.
Well, Manimal is coping in the comments.
Yeah, Manimal coping as if we didn't like, as if literal like in the first place it was like 2,000 people watched him get like humiliated live, and then it was like another like 1,200 on this live who watched him get humiliated again. And I'll actually I'll actually because I want more people to see the video, so I'll just like give the link the channel of the video. I think the name of the channel is TT Live Poster. Yeah, it's TT Live Poster, and it should be, I think it's titled Ian Debate 051324. I can, yeah, so it's just going to be, oh, I forgot I'm not big screen, but you know, it's TT Live Poster. That's what it is.
Can a mod? Wait, hold on. Chiara, bist du mod?
No, I don't have the super mod, unfortunately.
Oh, I have the super mod on my other account, but I can't. Wait, let me try to. Can you make
No, it's
somebody
okay, it's
bigger,
okay.
like through your iPad?
Wait, you're big right now. If you wanted to pull it up on like a computer and then show it that way, you probably
Pull
could.
what up?
So it's TT Live Poster is the YouTube account.
Oh, wait, give me a second.
Ian, I have a question.
Yeah, what's up?
Are you familiar with Wittgenstein's
I love Wittgenstein.
concept?
Wait, which concept specifically?
The familial resemblance concept?
I am, yeah. I think that that's like probably what, if I were to like say hard line that sex is something, I'd probably say that sex is that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. That's what I was curious about. Because it seemed like that's the view that you were portraying.
I love that principle too, and I usually adapt it also by explaining how we essentially categorize gender, like the external categorization of it. Because if you're like a child, like a 4-year-old, and you ask that 4-year-old, hey, what's a woman, right? They don't have a concept of like sex or biology, but they will most likely say, well, my mom is a woman, my aunt, my grandma. And the older they grow, it broadens like the category, because then they'll understand, well, a woman can also have short hair, or a woman can also not look like my mommy, like we'll have brunette hair instead of blonde hair. So that's a good way to describe it, like how you start to get familiar with the sex and how you recognize it and how it looks like.
Yeah, that's a good point. When people are developing, they tend to associate concepts ostensively, and what that means is that they get concepts of words using examples rather than what is known as intentional definitions, which use necessary and sufficient conditions. Those are the ones that appear in like a dictionary or something like
Somebody's
that.
been talking to Danny.
Huh? Who?
Sorry, never mind.
No, it's like full of language. No, Discord debaters are like so full of language pilled, it's crazy.
Oh. I mean, I read a lot of Philip language.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Synth and her consequences have been a disaster for Discord debate.
I don't really. I haven't been in the Discord Philbro spaces for a while though. They're just so.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry to project that onto you. I'm just like I thought for some reason I assumed that you were one of the people who's like usually there. But no, I'm like totally open. to people.
Maybe a while ago, but just I can't deal with the toxicity and the slurs and all the crazy stuff that goes down there.
No, I agree. I think it's like deeply off-putting that this is like it's like super insular rhetoric. I have lots of commentary on this because I've like debated. Do you know Goons?
I don't believe so.
Oh, yeah, he's just like a bad faith Philbro, you know, classic. But when these people actually like come off of Discord and onto like a TikTok live, for example, the rhetoric of just like demanding that they like specify this like niche philosophical thing actually doesn't look very good. Like just running someone down the line, well, like what's your normative epistemological theory in a conversation about like I don't know, like God. or maybe it would be relevant for God, but like in a conversation about like trans people, for example, it's like, you know, it actually doesn't look very
It
good
just
to
looks
most
cringe.
people.
It
Yeah.
looks mega cringe.
Yeah. Or define every single word ever. Like that is one of the most annoying things ever because we use words contextually a lot. Like we just have a sense for what they mean. Like not a lot of people are sitting down and thinking about what every single word's definition is. Like I think obviously knowing what trans means, knowing what gender means, knowing what sex means, like that is obviously a good starting point when you discuss those concepts. But if I say like, what do you mean by good? Or what do you mean by and? What do you mean by accept? Like that's fucking annoying, pardon, but it is. And it's just not very productive in a conversation because hopefully you would know that what the word means too. Like unless we need unless I need to buy you a dictionary, like I'm not going to define every single word in a conversation.
Yeah, and this wasn't a Phil bro, but yesterday when I was debating against Charlie and they kept asking me what a mind state was, and I was explaining to them what a primitive notion is.
Oh, that's the person to debate.
And some people just don't understand that not all terms can be defined intentionally, and it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
People just don't understand that people generally grow up defining terms ostensibly. They generally grow up defining a tree by giving examples of a tree and what trees look like. They aren't like pulling up characteristics of what a tree is to give the definition. They're just pointing at a tree and saying that's what a tree is.
And I would say like define characteristics. Like, no, I'm not going to do that because we both know what it means. So let's move on.
Wait, there's like someone in the comments, and I actually do think that this is like an important point. I think that this person specifically who's asking the question probably does have like a nuanced enough understanding to understand what I'm about to say. So if someone defines woman to be an adult human female, I wouldn't say that that's like per se incoherent. The problem is that that's just not the sense that's being used when a trans woman claims to be a woman. That, I mean, if you want to define like a woman as an adult human female in terms of like things that are actually like biologically relevant, like in terms of like women's health or whatever, even though like even that's arguable. But if you want to do that, then like that's fine, I guess, as long as you're specifying your definition. The problem is that is like literally just not the way that trans men or like trans women are claiming to be women every time they say the word woman. It's just like a completely different sense of the word being used.
I gotta run, but thanks for having me.
That's the relativism that I was talking about. It's just some like, there's some like ingrained intuitive notion of prescriptivism I can go full into like the leftist things of like colonization and white people imposing their language on other people and saying this is the right way to speak and all this other stuff that ingrains in people's minds in other contexts. But yeah, there's this notion of prescriptivism that's very ingrained into the human psyche for reasons like that.
But that's like the point though. I think that the whole, like a lot of the trans debate is semantics, right? But I think a lot of people want to use the definition that is currently in the dictionary, but they don't really mean it. Because if you would have asked a question like a couple years ago, I promise you, like if you ask a person on the street, like what's a woman, they would rather like list off characteristics or something that they're familiar with or how they perceive the gender category themselves. It's all because of Matt Walsh, like what is a woman, that they all of a sudden are on this biology trip. And I don't really think that it's a genuine conversation to begin with.
Yeah, no, I agree with this. And like there's just like even like a lot of very intuitive counterexamples. Like, you're really gonna tell me that Superman isn't a man? Come on. Like, just be so real. Like, even though Superman isn't like a human, if Superman existed in our world, of course we would consider him to be a man. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, like if there was some individual where we could equalize all their traits besides they have some artificial set of they have some artificial notion of DNA, not like human natural DNA. Would they still be human or something like that? Yeah, it's just very easy to kind of rip apart these conditions that are generally given. But I don't generally care to do that part of the conversation, like attacking the adult human female thing. I just generally care to defend the trans inclusive view.
Yeah.
That's generally what I do in conversations, which is very easy to do because prescriptivism is very silly in the vast majority of circumstances. Very
No,
easy.
I think I agree with this. I think that like the defending definitions, or like attacking the adult human female definition, I think that that's like a very brute force way to win because it has like a lot more gotchas. But on the other hand, like if the goal is to get them to concede or like actually like genuinely like change their mind or something, or honestly like just defend the position that is like most in line with reality, even though it's like nuanced and complicated, and a lot of people are going to miss that nuance. Defending like the fill of language based arguments of like, well, that's just what they mean when they say the word, my dude. Like that's, like you can't tell them that they're using the word wrong when they're like literally defining it for you and like explaining exactly how. Like if I say that this like mixtape is fire, I'm not saying that it's like physical, like hot burning fire. I'm using it in like just a completely different sense of the word. I'm saying that it's like really good. And like then my statement is true if the music is indeed really good, and all I mean when I say fire is that the music is really good, then the music is fire. That's a true statement. It just comes back to the way that you intend and like mean the words. It comes back to your like intentional states.
Well, but that's like, I mean, that's exactly the point, right? Like you're trying to show them that they do actually mean more than just adult human female when they think of woman. Because I think most people have like a concept of gender that is outside of biology that are simply denying to understand because of bigotry.
Yeah, I guess maybe where I disagree with the attacking adult human female as the primary approach is just that I'm not so convinced that will make anybody accept the pro-trans view. Like they'd probably just revise their original view in some minor way instead of actually accepting the pro-trans view, being sympathetic to the pro-trans view, something like that. And I think the best way to make somebody sympathetic to the pro-trans view is by talking about the pro-trans view. But that's just my perspective.
Yeah. I think I probably agree with that. Although I do think that for the view that and the arguments that you run, I don't want to give like the reductios to the transphobes, but and I actually don't even think that they're reductios. I think that they're just like a fundamental misunderstanding. But to someone who's like not listening too closely to the conversation, I think that there's ways to make it sound like the pro-trans person is just outright conceding the debate. If I asked you, if when the transphobe says the word woman, like what do they mean? Then you would probably agree that they mean like an adult human female, and that you would then be forced to agree with the statement that when a transphobe claims that the like misgenders people essentially, that under their sense of the word, like under their meaning of the word, like their statements are correct.
Well, those are just descriptive claims. I mean, that's what follows from the use theory of language, though. If all you mean by this is what that means is that the person is using this term in some certain way. I think there's a way to rhetorically amp up those questions, but I think that type of rhetoric is very easy to shoot down just by having a very basic understanding of basic analytic philosophy and what people mean when they use the term meaning.
Oh, I totally agree. I think that it's like ultimately a bad objection. Like in terms of the logic behind it, I think that it's not a good objection. It's not a convincing objection. But to someone who is like just not listening very closely to the conversation, or someone who is like a mindless transphobe, I think that if like the transphobe wanted to, they could like posture really hard about you conceding, which of course isn't true. Like they're just being stupid, and they're appealing to their like the common denominator of like their stupid fans. But I think that like I think that that's like the one and only like sticky rhetorical situation where you just need to have like good rhetoric to deal with that, and like good explanations for all these things. But besides that, I do think that that's like I think it's like an extremely defensible view.
Well, I mean, you don't necessarily have to say or you're not going to have to concede that their definition is wrong, like with whatever they mean, but you could still show them how their understanding of it would be inferior to the trans inclusive
Well,
definition.
that'd normally be where the utility conversation comes into play when you're saying there's this definition and there's this other definition, which one should we prefer? What we're generally going to be saying there is that there's some purpose or telos of language, which is to promote utility. That's probably going to be the final end of language. So yeah, that's probably where that would go. Like which definition best supports the telos or purpose of bettering our society, of making our society a better place for people to live in. And I think obviously the pro-trans view best accomplishes that goal. So I don't think that's a hard route either.
I gotta hop down. I gotta go grab dinner. But wherever Kinsey is, I don't know where she went. But I'm really glad I got to have some of this conversation. So bye, everybody.
Yeah, bye. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
W Artemis.
Bye bye.
W Chair. W Athena. W Ian. W Josh.
Her. Is anyone else here Supermod? Because if there are people in the requests that want to come up, I can like drop down and then come back on my other account where I am Supermod.
Go ahead, yeah. Maybe do that.
Oh, is there people up here wanting to debate?
Oh no, not debate. We're not going to do that to Ian.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just like people, if anybody has questions.
Oh, okay.
Is there anyone who has questions who might be in the request? Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on. wait, 1 second. Manimal Pookie, is that you in the comments?
Yes.
Of course it is.
It's
Trying to pretend as if like, I don't know, people won't let you up because they're scared. Ooh. Pookie, we just watched a debate of you like getting destroyed. Please calm down. Calm down, Pookie.
Genuinely. He wants like the humiliation again.
Maybe he has a degradation kink.
That's unironically what I'm thinking. Like, why else would he stay and watch the entire live of watching like his friend get demolished, then watching him get demolished, then watching his friend get demolished a second time, then getting like demolished in the comments. Like, I don't know. Bro's like crumbling infrastructure the way he keeps getting demolished.
Wait, he said, why are you afraid to bring me up?
We're not afraid, bro. Like,
We already debated.
I've debated Manimal with 7 other people before, like on his side. No one's afraid to debate you, Manimal.
No, that would be.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the only thing I'm afraid of is that hair, because my guy, it's so oily. Literally, it's so oily. The American government would want to invade it. Like, come on, calm down.
Yo, Athena, you chose violence. It's always after the TikTok breaks, like something's up, like this violence. I think it's like we have a lot of self-awareness. Like I have been in debates where I don't think I did as well as I wanted to. And I also, even people on my side, I criticize them. Like if I think that they didn't do so well, then I'm not in the comments like, oh yeah, W, slay. Like no, because that's a disservice for the side that I'm on. And Ian objectively ate you the fuck up. I'm sorry. Mean. If I were, I would literally tell you in the DMs, I would be like, hey Ian, I think the debate was good, but there was like XYZ that I didn't think was like a good argument or whatever.
Definitely. Yeah.
Nothing to be found though. Like 404, I cannot tell you anything that you could have done better. So
No, I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. Like even for me, like watching the debate back, like it is just very apparent that there's no substance behind his position. And that's why like he refuses to say the substance and instead like gives these long-winded soliloquies about like, well, first we need to understand what species, despite the fact that both my and Daniel's definition include the word human.
okay, well, but do you think, Manimal, like in the comments, like do you think that there was like some places where you weren't like up to par? Like I just want to have like a gauge of self-awareness.
Yeah. I think that there's like probably some things that could have been. So the way the W rhetoric, if you're ever debating someone like Manimal who likes to yap about like red herrings, the way to win this debate is to keep things extremely linear. You want to be like very like, if this thing is true, then this thing is true, and make like the steps like very gradual, and like hold him down. Don't let him pivot. Like you should be. I don't know if anyone here has done like competitive debate, but you should be flowing. Essentially, you should be like writing down all the arguments that the other person is making, so you can like look down at your notes and say, because when they try to pivot, you say, no, 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 don't pivot. We were talking about this thing. My answer was this. You responded with this. I said this. And now you're pivoting to this like completely unrelated point. Don't pivot. Let's stay on the line of argumentation that we were on. You just want to like, because Manimal wants to go to all sorts of places. He wants to go to What's a Human. He wants to go to like fucking, you know, like any like all sorts of like worthless bullshit. And you just shouldn't let him. Like it's not relevant to the conversation. Both of you agree that these people are humans. Like disproving the like disproving someone's definition of human doesn't actually get you any farther in the debate. There's no substance. It's just a red herring.
Yeah, I don't see the point of debating things you agree with someone about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we both agree that human is in the definition of woman, so let's debate what a human is. Something we we both have in our definition. That's so.
Wait, but I think actually hot topic, like a little bit off topic maybe, but I do think that species in general are also like social constructs. Like debate me on.
Yeah, probably.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sure.
like I don't know, like
That's
what differentiates? Because like if we take the theory of evolution to be true,
Yeah.
which I don't know, like some people might reject that if they're like really stupid or like they want to lose. But if we take the theory of evolution to be true, then there's going to come a point like where we went from like Homo erectus to Homo sapien. So what's the
Right.
necessary and like what's the distinguishing trait between like the last Homo erectus and the first Homo sapien?
Like the arbitrary categories, like we're obviously looking for factors that are alike in order to determine species. And I'm not saying that it's like super arbitrary and stupid how we categorize those species, but the practice in itself is a social construct. Absolutely.
I think I disagree a bit with Ian about there being some point where Homo erectus became Homo sapiens. I think
Or
it's
just that we classify it that way might be a better way of saying it.
I'm not even sure if that would be true. If there would be some descendant of some organism, some offspring of some organism, where we would say this offspring is Homo sapien and its parent is Homo erectus. I think it's more of like a Sorites paradox thing.
Gotcha. Wait, I think then that seems plausible. I think I must just misunderstand.
Well, that just seems more plausible to me. Maybe there's
No, when you say it like that, that also does seem more plausible to me.
yeah.
Not gonna lie, I didn't track that one, but okay.
Well, do you know like the Sorites paradox?
No, I haven't heard of that one, but I'll look it up.
It's just like how many grains of sand do you need to make a heap of
Oh
sand?
yeah. No, now I know what you mean. Okay, gotcha.
Hello.
Hey, what's up? How's it going?
Good. How are ya?
Doing good. How about you?
Great. Thank you for asking. I was gonna ask you, I tried to join your Discord, but the link isn't working.
Oh yeah, you need to access it on like a website. You need to pull up your computer. It's dumb. You know, TikTok's a perfect app with absolutely no flaws. Yeah.
Okay. And I was gonna say that I've been debating Chewbacca for like years now. Chewbacca is Manimal.
Yeah.
They're always shifting the goalposts. Like I debated him not that long ago, and I asked him the same question about the necessary and sufficient condition, and he said that for a female, it's having an inactive SRY. And then I was like, okay, what about the males that are SRY negative?
Mhm.
Are they female? And then he shifted the goalposts to having the reproductive pathways. And then I asked him, okay, what are these called? And he was like, Mullerian and Wolffian. Mullerian for female and Wolffian for male. And then I was okay, so explain males that have persistent Mullerian syndrome. Are they females now? And then he did the classic pivot bullshit that he always does. And Chrissy was on the panel. She was quiet as fuck. She didn't say a goddamn thing.
Classic.
So it's like I don't waste my time talking to them because it's like you better off talking to a stop sign.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that if you want to, that nobody, no like trans person especially, should feel obligated to engage with transphobes. It's exhausting labor. It's like thankless, tireless work. The people you engage with are just like profoundly unintelligent, profoundly incapable of tracking logic, profoundly dishonest. And their fans eat it all up. It's exhausting. It's genuinely exhausting. It's disheartening. It's terrible. So I don't think any trans person should ever feel obligated to like debate. And I totally understand when a trans person, or like any person for that matter, is like it. I get it.
Like I came on this app 4 years ago and been debating them ever since. It's like, it's pointless.
Mm-hmm.
They would never concede, even though they know that they're wrong, but they don't care.
Yeah.
There's a set of people that, I don't know, I think it's also like a combination of having like a very big ego, that they genuinely think that they're eating during a debate. And I don't understand how you can track a conversation plus thinking that you won after that. I think that's like very concerning. Like, I want to know the thought process on that one.
Yeah.
I think she knew this time. I heard her in a live talking with some of her friends there and just going on about like, it was unfair. They had sub chat only on and it was like 4 against 1. And when really it was mostly just Ian talking and destroying. But I think she knew this time, which was amazing.
Yeah. I don't know. The complaints about sub-only chat, like, just cry about it. Like, I don't even know what to say. Why would that matter at all? Like, stop cowering and just engage with the argument.
I did her minions.
They like to appeal
go in
to
the
like
chat like crazy.
Oops. All right. Yeah, I think that chat clearly influences like whether or not you have good or bad rhetoric. Apparently, wasn't aware of it personally.
I think it's kind of a psychological thing too. Like,
Yeah, it is for me. That's why I had it on sub only, is because like transphobic comments, like as a non-binary person, really do get to me. Which is why, like, so they don't get to me like like an abstract sense. Like if someone right now just went up to me and like called me like a bunch of like transphobic slurs, I'd be like, okay, that's weird, but whatever. But when people are making like really weird comments while I'm debating, it just like fucks my flow up a little bit.
yeah, I get that too. Yeah, as another.
That makes sense.
There's someone has an echo.
Heck, yeah, but
That's me. Hold on a second. That's me. I'm sorry.
yeah, no problem. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm an MB person as well, and I always get these like comments and debates that just like shift it to being like a personal conversation about myself, which is kind of weird, like my own identity and how it's valid and all this other stuff. What it means when I say I'm non-binary and all this other stuff.
Yeah, I'm not a fan.
You can't track trans people, like trans women and trans men, but when it comes to non-binary, they really can't track it.
Definitely. Well, because I think that non-binary is like extremely intuitive if you have like the frameworks established for trans men and trans women as to like why these people are their gender identity, and then like the existence of non-binary people just exist from like a difference of desires that men desire to be gendered as men, women desire to be gendered as women, and non-binary people desire to be gendered as neither.
I think it's because they think that when you say that you're non-binary, that you're saying that you're neither male or female, like you don't have a sex.
Mm-hmm. No,
I think
definitely.
I always ask them, like, what do you think they mean when they say that? And that is what they always respond, well, you have to have a sex. I'm like, but that's not what they're saying.
That's it's like an absurd answer. Like, of course I have a sex. Like, my sex is male, obviously. No shit. Like,
Well, apparently your genitals fall off like once you're non-binary.
yeah, exactly. You use like someone calls you a they them once, and then it's all over.
They
Like your
expel from your
testicles
body.
start to like shrivel up. Like the estrogen just starts pumping. It's all over for you.
24 hours and they're gone.
That's something. That's funny.
I have a question for Ian and Josh, if that's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, because like correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you two are the most informed on philosophy.
Oh, I think a lot of people on here are informed, but yeah, I have the answer. Yeah.
Okay, so I was in a space with both Manimal and Nate recently, and while Ian, I do believe that your definition probably is more sufficient. I just want to test this definition that I gave them after I conceded a previous definition, and so The newest definition that I was operating under during that conversation, which they didn't want to, they were trying to debunk, was for a man, I would say that would just be an adult human who presents as and is perceived as an adult male human being, right? And I understand that I am aware that this implies passability, but I can also describe how it doesn't necessarily require it. But what do you think about this definition?
Yeah. So let me just make sure. So it's just gonna be like you are perceived as by other people as being like an adult human male.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I do think that the obvious objection is that, to me at least, I would still consider someone to be like I would still consider like a trans woman to be a woman. Even if she's not in a place to transition, or even if she doesn't want to like actually do much to transition. And that's like a weird experience. Like I'm sure that her lived experience is going to be strange to me, but makes perfect sense to her. But I think that it excludes a lot of people who I personally wouldn't be comfortable with excluding. But I mean, if you just like bite all the bullets, if you just say like, yeah, the people who don't pass aren't actually the gender, then like it's coherent, I guess, but it's just like very exclusionary. That's like my main critique, is that you'd probably exclude like a lot of people.
And I think it excludes people on a discriminatory basis on, for example, class, like somebody's ability to buy new clothes, to present themselves in a certain way, or to have a medical transition is very much indexed to their financial resources that they have. Right. So if we're saying that you're only trans if you have these certain conditions that I deem to make you passable, that means that disproportionately people in lower class circumstances, which unfortunately in this country and many others are also disproportionately POC people, are going to be disproportionately not able to achieve those characteristics due to those socioeconomic factors. So I think it's problematic for mainly that reason.
Not just that, but there's also like cis women who lack these characteristics too, that look like what you consider like a dude.
Yeah, like a butch lesbian. That's the other thing, is that you'd have
I've
to
seen
classify
several of them
them.
on this app, like they look like straight up dudes. I'm like, what?
Okay, I agree with all
Right.
of
Casting
the
is
things said.
subjective, regardless.
Yeah, I agree with all the things said, and why I feel like it doesn't necessarily require passability. Would you agree that there are multiple ways of perceiving something?
Yeah, there are multiple ways, but I guess that probably like further problematizes your definition, like just a little bit, because I guess like perceived by who?
Precisely my point. Like it would be up to
Oh,
the
you're
criteria.
talking about the cat thing.
Yeah.
Right?
No. I really don't even want to give that definition, because that was that's still.
But that's the excuse they use. I know what you're talking about. And it's annoying.
I can't even-
I think it's
I'm
different
sorry,
because when you're
I
talking
hate
about
to
gender, it's
interrupt.
social.
I'm so sorry, boss lady. One of you has like a echo. I don't know if it's Isaac or you. Maybe somebody. Okay, I don't know. Maybe you just need to like swipe out and come back. But I think you're good, Isaac. So maybe it was boss lady.
Okay. But yeah, like that would be my point, is that it would be up to the criteria of the person perceiving it. So if like, would you say that someone simply declaring that they have this gender identity, would that be like the other person perceiving it? Would that be enough criteria for that person's perception?
In my mind, under my definition, that the proxy for evaluating people's desires is just going to be what their stated desire is. That I can't actually know what people desire, but it's like a weird thing to lie about. And so like in general, unless I have like good reason to believe otherwise, I'm just going to believe someone if they say that they desire to be gendered in a specific way. I guess there are some examples, right? Like if someone only identifies as a woman when it's like ladies' night at the bar, maybe I'd start inferring that this person isn't actually a woman. But if it's like pretty consistent, or I have no reason to think that there's like anything weird going on, then I would just accept it on face that their desire is what they're claiming their desire to be.
Yeah, my apologies. I should have included the fact that being persistent, insistent, inconsistent would also be a part of my definition.
I would say that we usually know if somebody's being genuine. Like I feel like I keep hearing this a lot in like trans debates when they're like, oh, you can like give me the she her pronouns like in the middle of the debate. Like if I were to like talk shit about Christians for like an entire hour and say like, oh my God, Christians are so illogical, God isn't real, blah blah blah.
Like obviously the presentation is false, his word specifically, and therefore the perception has to be false and the conclusion has to be false. And my argument is that I don't believe that the perception would necessarily be false because they would be perceiving what is being presented. You perceiving the source, but once again, the presentation, your like perception of the presentation would be true.
Your perception of the presentation. Yeah, I'm just not sure what it would mean for it to be false. Like, yeah,
that's exactly what I was trying to make up. Like, that couldn't be false, bro.
Yeah, if I can respond to that. If you read Descartes' Meditations, and you sort of know the flow of that, the first thing that he does is give these skeptical examples in the first Meditations. And then after that, he sort of builds these foundations to base knowledge upon. And the first thing that he does is he does something called regaining the internal world, where he says that I look out and say I perceive my phone, right? Even if there's not actually a phone in front of me, it's not false that I perceive a phone, right? Nobody could be dissuading me into believing that I perceive a phone. It could be the case that phone's not there, but it could not be the case that I'm not perceiving that there is a phone that's there. So I recommend looking into that. That's a very important work in modern philosophy. That'll probably help you out. But I also wanted to say that on the sort of point of somebody having these sort of mind states and somebody else having to discern whether these states are valid, I would just say, sure, there might be some epistemic issues there. There's not certainty we can derive, but I would just say that a particular individual has the best access to their own mental states. To give another example, if I were to say that I was happy 3 hours ago, and then somebody else who's unrelated who didn't perceive me 3 hours ago says, well, actually, no, you were not. I'd probably be the most proper person to believe on that because I'm the one who actually had those mind states, rather than somebody else who A, doesn't perceive those mind states and B, doesn't have those mind states, right? I would be the best person to believe on my own mind states. And the same way that a trans person would be the best person to believe on their mind states of having a certain gender identity. So that'd be my answer to that.
Okay. I'm gonna like note that. So read Descartes. I'm gonna do that. And I know Artemis. I brought this because Artemis was there like during some of the interaction, and then they went to another person, and this person told me to check out simulation theory, which I'm also going to look at. But finally, I just wanted to ask because it's fair to say that eventually his argument could be reduced down to essentially gaslighting everyone and telling everyone that they're not perceiving reality in the way that they're perceiving it. If he's going to say that the perception is false, like he would essentially be saying that no one's perceiving reality in the way that they're perceiving it, which would be absurd.
If he's making that claim, yeah, it's very absurd for me. Maybe I'm a future neurobiologist when neuroscience vastly advances and I'm somehow able to accurately map a person's thoughts visually, and in other ways linguistically. But until that occurs, if that ever occurs, there's not really a way for me to discern with any sort of accuracy whether or not you're lying about your own mind states, unless you have actions that contradict those in some way.
Okay. Yeah, I think that might satisfy all. I'm making sure I don't have any more questions because this has been like racking my brain for like the past week because it just seemed so obvious to me, and it was like they were like intentionally choosing not to see.
Wait. So there's like a really easy. You can keep this like super linear with them. You just ask them like, I don't know what specific question you're like trying to about perception, but let's say that you see something that appears to be blue, but in fact is not blue. Now you're presupposing that you see the color blue, like that your perception is of blue. Just ask them, if you see blue, do you see blue?
Yeah, because that was their argument was like, if you see a cat and later on find out it's like, I think a raccoon was what they said.
Raccoon, yeah, that
you objectively were wrong. And so like, I get what they were saying, but I also, I agree with Isaac too, because I've argued this point with, I think it was Avani, about, they always use this example about fool's gold. Well, you were wrong, it wasn't gold. But I was like, socially in that perception, no, people are going to believe it was gold. If you don't know what the difference is, you're going to assume it's gold.
The fool's gold thing is so.
Oh.
Sorry, I went on 10%. The fool's gold thing is so unbelievably silly.
It's
just hardly even worth responding to. I'm not even sure what they're getting at when they make a claim like that. It's probably just a response to a claim that no one's really making.
I know, I think it's dumb. I guess what they're saying is objectively, we all know what a cat is versus a raccoon, and I understand that, but it still doesn't change, because our perception is our reality, right? Like, isn't that how it goes?
Depending on what you mean by that.
Yeah, like I understand, like it does become semantical, and I'm trying to be as clear as possible with the words that I'm using, without having to retell the entire interaction, because it was quite exhausting. It was like, it literally lasted like 3 hours just because Nate wanted to win, and I wasn't giving it to him. I had already conceded my previous definition. So, but then he got upset, like he actually got genuinely upset, because he didn't understand how I was arriving at this conclusion, and he knew that if he would have like granted me the principle that I was proposing, that he would no longer be able to tell people that their perception was false if they are perceiving what's being presented, whether or not. And like the example that I gave, not during the interaction, but afterwards, like I started thinking about it. I don't know if this is a sufficient example, but like let's take for instance that all matter is made up of atoms, which is in turn made up of electrons, neutrons, and protons. Essentially, he would be saying, because you aren't perceiving the electrons, neutrons, and protons, that you would be like, everything that you're perceiving is false. That's what I'm taking it as.
Yeah, so Isaac, you're referring to the conversation you had, Nate, like how, like a week ago?
Yeah, like a week or something ago, yeah.
Yeah. So like, what was the argument he was giving?
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. This is
No, just like if you can give like a brief, like 2-sentence or.
Yeah, I'm gonna try. Okay, so essentially, his argument was he was critiquing my definition, which is strange because he was also trying to apply his standards of language on my worldview, which doesn't make sense in an internal critique. But anyways, he was trying to say that because the presentation is not in alignment with what actually is, his word specifically was because the presentation is false, everything else that follows, because he agreed that there is a delineation between source, presentation, perception, and conclusion. He's saying that because the presentation is false, perception and conclusion are also false. And they have to be false because the presentation is false. And I was arguing that the perception would not be false if we're talking about perception of the presentation. If you're talking about perception of the source, or what it actually is, I mean, I guess you can make that, but I was talking specifically about the relationship between the presentation and the perception.
I mean,
if anyone has any like contention with what I was like, please let me know, because I was like, it was actually becoming frustrating because I didn't understand how like more to clarify what I was saying.
I think in general, I don't even know if it's necessary to make all these sort of distinctions and clarifications.
It isn't necessary.
Yeah, I think all you really have to do is just say that a trans person's identity is valid in virtue of their mind states that align with a set of social extensions of a particular sex, the female sex for women, the male sex for men. And if they have these mind states, that's sufficient for them being a man or a woman, depending on which one, obviously. Perception isn't really too relevant. Expression isn't really too relevant because that can be linked to socioeconomic factors. The only thing they need is to have this sort of mind state. And that person, since they have the most direct access to their mind states, is the best person to believe about whether or not they have those mind states, unless they do something that contradicts that. So on face value, if somebody says that they have this certain set of mind states that align with these social extensions, that should be sufficient generally to saying that this person is the gender they identify with.
No, the point, all of your points that you're making are fair, and you probably have a more simplified stance than what I had at that time. But I was not like it was specifically like his argument against what I was saying. Like, what actually felt like gaslighting. Like he was essentially saying that like no one's perceiving anything correctly, and I just thought that was absurd. So I just wanted to like bring it up here.
Yeah. I think in my server, I'm gonna try to build some trans database. I'm working on building a Palestine database right now, but after I do that, I'm gonna try to build a trans debate resource bank for just all different stuff. And I won't be putting in all that stuff in myself. Like, I want people who are better in psychology to give some sources about that, better in biology to give some sources about that. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, I have material I can add to that.
Oh yeah, that'd be cool. I want to do that kind of soon, maybe a bit after I finish setting up the Palestine one, because that's my priority right now to set that one up.
Right.
Okay. Well, I believe you have sufficiently answered all my questions. Thank you so much, everyone. It was very much appreciated. I'm going to hop down in case anybody else wants to come up and ask questions. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I don't know if you have me added anywhere, but if you ever have any questions for me, I'm not a celebrity or anything. If I can respond, I'll respond.
No, you are one of the supreme Phil Bros, Josh. And I've already joined Ian's server, but I'm going to join your server as well, Josh. I don't think I was aware you had a server actually, but I'll be joining that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That's cool.
Speaking of celebrities, let's get me to 3K today. Let's do it. Why not? 9 followers left. Why not?
Almost there. That should be
exactly
easy. 9 followers. No, that'll be nothing. I wanted to ask you guys basically a similar debate that Nate gives. Is like, I'm trying to remember. I think it started off the same thing. He asked me my definition of a woman, because that's how they usually always start.
I need your help.
And I said,
need your help.
Okay. I said it is someone who aligns with the female. Their psychosocial schema aligns with the female sex, I think is what I use. And then I think he asked me what that meant. And I said it's going to be different for each person, something like that. And basically he started down a road of, well, how do you know? What is the distinct difference? Use a different word. But basically he was asking me, how can you tell the difference between someone who is like, say, a masculine woman or versus a man, right? Or who is a feminine, he said like a femboy versus like a woman. Like, how do we tell these differences?
Yeah, that's also pretty easy to respond to. Yeah, I would just say that gender identity exists on a spectrum. It's bimodal to an extent. It's not binary. So two people could both be on the man part of the spectrum, and one be, say, man is on the right parts of the spectrum, one be further to the right on that spectrum than the other one, right? Where the one further left experiences more feminine characteristics, but still falls on the end of the spectrum that we would characterize as being men. Or it could also just be the case, because I don't make some assertion that everyone uses the term in the same way that I do, even though I would prefer that they do, that somebody just uses the term in a different way. That's obviously possible as well. So that's not really a criticism. Either A, they just have a different set of term usages, or B, they just fit more so on the left of the man category that we designate on the spectrum of gender.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. I mean, I can't think of the word he used. I don't know if it was deterministic quality that had to be. So he wants you to get a definite of like what defines this and what defines that, or his response is, well, then you don't know what a man or a woman is. That's always his response.
Yeah, like necessary sufficient conditions are also called like definitive traits or something like that, as opposed to like, he uses that term accidental properties a lot for non-essential traits. Yeah. What were you saying? What did I say?
So there's this paper, boss lady. Sorry, what do I call you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, sorry, it's been a minute. But there's a paper by Louise Antony called Feminism Without Metaphysics, a Deflationary Account of Gender. And she gives this argument in the paper for why the concept of woman doesn't actually contain the concept of sex, right? Like sex isn't a component concept of woman. So I'll provide the argument in a moment. Wait, I'm sorry. Give me a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'll provide the argument in a moment. But I think like if it's sound, what it shows is that all this bickering about like what physical sex characteristics are necessary to be a woman, or like someone needs to like be in alignment with or whatever, or need to present as or whatever. Like all that. It's pointless, right? It's useless. So the idea is that complex concepts usually entail the unthinkability of certain thoughts, right? So here's an example. Y'all can hear me all right? I think there's...
Yes, I can hear you.
Cool. There's just like a fan going on. I didn't know if it was louder. For example, we have this concept, bachelor, right? Bachelor is a complex concept. It's comprised of different component concepts, right? So, bachelor is an unmarried man, right? So that's at least two concepts, being unmarried and like being a man, right? So, if someone did not have the concept of marriage, like they did not know what like marriage was, or they didn't know what it meant to be unmarried, they would not be able to reliably classify someone as a bachelor, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, right. Sorry, give me a moment. I'm also kind of like, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm kind of like baked right now.
Oh my god. You go ahead and smoke one right for me. Hey, I'm telling you.
Here we go.
Hello, everyone.
Notes on this right quick. Okay, so.
Could I
Go
ask
on,
a question?
yeah, you're good.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm from Greece, and I've been listening to you guys for a long time. So I have a few questions. First one is, how do you differentiate between sex and gender? I know it's been answered, and everyone's telling me to just go and Google it, but I'm like,
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Are you asking how I distinguish between the two?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So gender is a social kind that is materially grounded in sex, which is a biological kind, right? So we have this concept of sex, right? The fact that like the human species is like sexually dimorphic with respect to like biological functions. And then gender systems arose from like, the acknowledgement of this fact, and like males like subjugating females on the basis of like their reproductive capabilities, etc. These like events, these states of affairs led to like the need to articulate gender roles and gender systems. So like it's basically like when we started like building in oughts based on people's like physical characteristics. Yeah, so like once you start building in the oughts, it just becomes very clear that sex and gender are distinct.
So when you say oughts, do you mean like what someone should do or should not do?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because that's what gender is. I mean, like it's just prescribing oughts on the basis of like physical sex characteristics.
Do you think that
But, like
most...
you can't derive the ought from the is. Wait, what?
So do you think all these characteristics that a woman or a man has, are they all
I mean, like people are
culture?
saying like because the person has this specific biological configuration, they ought to do this. They ought to identify this way. They ought to be, partaking in these particular roles, or they ought to be dressing in this particular way because of how their body is configured.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, so like.
Yeah. So, but like, do you
There's
think
the is that problem.
do you think these odds are also added by biological reasons, or is it just a societal?
I don't think any of them are added for biological reasons.
So it was all cultural.
Wait.
Give me 1 second. Ava, Ian, and Josh. Like, I don't know, boss lady, if you're cis or trans, but are the trans people in here okay?
Yeah, of course.
I am okay.
Yeah, no, I'm like big chillin'. No, I'm like super used to like just explaining
ignoring
these
people
things.
like me trying to.
Yeah, well, yeah,
No, I
just like people sometimes like not fully understanding and like explaining to them.
Okay.
Like,
I just want to
don't-
make sure
I'm not
that it
picking
doesn't
up
turn
on
into
like.
debate. Yeah, right. I just want to make sure that it doesn't turn into like this.
Yeah,
naked
no,
debate
I'm
right
just
now.
like, I'm ready to hear it. Like I have.
All right, go ahead.
I'm fine.
I mean, just to clarify, I have no malintent here. I am from a small Greek Mediterranean island. Like the
Sure.
mentality here is very vastly different. Our worldview is very different. So it's all these questions are coming from genuine curiosity, trying to understand why and how.
I believe you.
Okay. So you're saying okay. So do you think that hormones perhaps could affect someone's behavior and therefore his oughts or shoulds?
I don't see that's still that you would still need to get the ought from the is. I don't see how you would do that.
Sorry. Sorry.
You would
again.
still need to, bridge the is ought gap. Like you said, like hormones, and therefore like, the oughts. Like what was it? Like
As in, like, I mean, the characteristics associated with a guy, with a man. Perhaps some of it, I'm just arguing that perhaps some of it would be given to him because of his hormones and because of his like chemistry, like basic biology.
All right, I'm sorry to interrupt. I know I've been gone. Like I told you guys, I had to go. I had to go because I needed to take a phone call, and I just took the phone call and let you guys go. But what's happening?
philosophy.
So, are you guys debating?
We're not really debating. I'm kind of just. I mean, well, depends on what you mean. I'm kind of just asking questions, or I'm answering questions.
Is everyone okay? Is everyone okay? Are we?
Yeah,
good?
no, I'm chilling. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
I'm not sure where I left off, to be honest.
Oh shit. Well, I think earlier I was saying that Louise Antony makes this argument that woman, the concept of woman doesn't actually contain the concept sex, right? You could totally divorce those two concepts, and like you would still be able to coherently talk about what a woman is, even without this concept of sex, right? Because like she says in the paper, complex concepts entail the unthinkability of certain thoughts, right? For example, if you don't know anything about marriage, if you don't have the concept of marriage in your repertoire, then you aren't going to be able to reliably classify a person as a bachelor, right? Because in order to understand what a bachelor is, you need to understand what it means to be unmarried. If you don't know what that means, then how can you reliably label someone as a bachelor? You wouldn't be able to, right? But children can reliably classify people as women, even if they don't know anything about sex, right? Even if they lack that concept entirely, or even if they don't even know that the classifications of gender even pertain to sex, right? So, a
person born basically with like male genitals could possibly identify with being a woman because they would uptake all those oughts that you said before were given to females classically.
I don't think that's what I was saying, but I mean, I would just I would just defer to back what Josh was saying earlier. I mean, like, I'm gonna have to trust the person who makes the identity claim. Like, I'm gonna trust that they know
Their perception just simply aligns.
their perception aligns. Yeah.
And
Like,
sex
we
doesn't
just-
define your gender, so
We just have like this intuition, I think. Like we humans were biologically programmed to have a gender. Like there's a part in our brain that expresses like our gender identity. So this brain essentially searches in society where it belongs best. And then we can just associate with like how we have perceived that gender category.
Does that part of the brain also contain the behavior characteristics of that gender, of a specific gender?
I think it is like, I think that you as a person, you're like a product of your environment and your biology. So it is like nature and nurture almost. So I think you have some maybe predispositions to be a certain way, and then the environment just essentially either expresses them in a certain way or they're suppressing them. So it's epigenetic.
I see.
Like, for example, I mean, obviously that doesn't pertain to the trans debate at all, but I think that we can see or we can analyze in a lot of like sociopaths or psychopaths that they have had like very similar childhoods. Like people that end up doing like terrible things usually have had like a very rough childhood. So I do believe that there's maybe something in their brain that is like non-functioning. It is definitely been amplified due to their childhood, and that's what we keep seeing.
I see. So if I decide to like uptake all those responsibilities that you said that a gender has, and I like for example a woman, I just take all those cultural responsibilities of a woman, and I also portray myself physically as a woman. Would I be any different than a cis woman?
No, I think that cis and trans women are both women. It's just like type of women, I guess. Like if you say tall or short woman, they're both women. I think the descriptor isn't really relevant in that discussion. And like it's just like it's very specific, or it just shows like the relationship.
And I would say you don't decide, you just are. Right? Like, did you ever decide? Are you a man, Chris?
Yep.
Did you decide one day that you're a man, or are you just a man?
Just a man.
It's the same thing for trans people.
I'm just trans. Just trans, lady.
Who they are.
Isn't it a bit more complicated for trans people? Don't they go through a dysphoria phase at some point?
Not necessarily.
Like, I could go through depression, right? But that doesn't change me being a woman. So, like, it doesn't define them.
Well, cis women can also go through, like a lot of cis women actually do go through gender dysphoria. So I, for example, take a lot of like gender affirming care for myself, because if I'm Italian, so I'm gonna be real. My legs be hairy, my arms be hairy. So it gives me gender dysphoria because I feel perceived as a man whenever I'm in public. So that's why I participate in grooming often.
And those would be the social norms that, like, referring to, right? Like, she feels, sorry, is your pronoun she, her, did you say? She, her?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She's feeling awkward or feeling that way because of social norms.
Right. Yeah.
Just a small side note, Ian, if you're still here or,
I'm here. Yeah,
you're
what's
listening. Dude, I heard your debate yesterday on religion. I love the way you just very slowly and patiently just cornered the other person in the debate. Was fascinating to watch.
Yeah, thanks. That's my debate style, is that I just try to stay like calm and linear. Like we just go like a little bit at a time to move slightly towards the conclusion that like their God isn't real for whatever reason. And I think my debate style on like the trans topic is like very similar, that we move very closely towards the conclusion that trans men are men, trans women are women. But I appreciate it. That's very kind of you to say.
Yeah, because I saw you like writing down stuff. Like every time the speaker would speak, we would just like write down a few points, and then you just finish with the point before going to the next. And it was a really gradual process, and yeah, it was good to watch.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. I have like a formal debate background where we wrote down all the arguments that are used, or we just like when someone makes an argument, you just like write it down, and then right next to the argument, you write down your responses. It's like a super useful thing. I think everyone, no matter who they are, should be debating like that. I think it's super useful.
That's smart.
If I tried doing that, I think I would find it a bit hard, because I don't know if I can write fast enough. Like you're listening to that person, you're writing down, you're processing an argument. Like that's.
Yeah, I just try to memorize.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. Like there is, it's a practice thing. Practice makes perfect. Definitely always. It's not something that anyone is just like born able to do. But no, if you're familiar with the arguments, you're you can definitely write it down, because you don't write down like word for word. You just write down like the name of the argument, or you write down like a brief description of the argument, and then you can respond to that. But yeah, it's like super useful to actually like track the conversation and make sure that you're actually making points that respond to their points, because you always know what their points are responding to, and you always know what their points are, which is super important for making sure that the topic, like, it's actually progressing in like a logical way, rather than someone saying something that's like completely unrelated, or someone like pivoting to a different topic. Writing down arguments, like flowing all the arguments, is like extremely useful.
Yep. Thank you for that. That's a good tip. I'll keep it.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you like want to get really seriously into debating, I would also recommend like making yourself like a Google Doc with sources, because a lot of transphobes that are a little bit more advanced and are beyond like, well, I just think it's like blah, 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 it's like sex is your gender. Then it's good to have like some speaker notes on why like certain studies are like fallacious, and which studies or which counter studies you can present that are more qualitative. Nemno Naomi has a fantastic resource link tree, like a master document, like if you're ever interested in that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in looking at it. I guess it would reveal both perspectives. The same document, just depends how you read it, right?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, the agenda of the document would be whatever it is, whether it's pro or against, it would reveal both perspectives.
Well, no, not necessarily. Like you can look at the methodology, and you can also look at the potential conflict of interest that can occur. You could say that having certain fundings could create certain outcomes, but I think especially when it comes to like self-report surveys or studies, it is hard to like influence people in answering like a certain way unless the questions are like very much biased. But you would see like the questions posed, right? Like I have no reason to believe that they would create like a certain outcome.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I asked you guys too many questions. If you have any questions to ask me,
no, it's okay. You didn't ask too many questions. I'm always happy to talk about this, and I always think it's like interesting. It's a useful conversation, and I think people should think about it more.
Yeah, if you guys were here having this conversation, that would definitely cause a stir in the place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Where are you from? Where are you all from?
Oh, I'm from like Colorado, America. But if there's like people who want to ask like questions, we should probably bring them up. More like related to the trans conversation, you know. Not to say that I don't want to talk to you, but I think some people are probably looking to ask some questions.
Sure. Should I just
Yeah, just like the X in the right corner.
Okay, cool. Last thing before I leave, is there any chance we could at some point have a debate about religion?
About religion? Yeah, of course. Every time I'm live in the God debate, I can like try and look for you. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, just like drop a comment and I'll look for it, and then we can do the God debate next time I'm live about religion, which might be on like Sunday.
Okay, cool. Nice to meet you guys. Take care.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Bye. I've never seen you debate Christianity or God. Do you like those debates, Ian?
Yeah, it's like my main debate. Well, okay, I think trans issues are the debate that I'm best at. I know the trans debate really, really well. I think it's just like a difference, because I think that the trans debate is much harder than the Christianity debate. I think I'm like around the same level at beating people. It's just that the trans debate, in order to get to that level, requires a lot more work. Whereas the Christianity debate, I genuinely do think that you could teach people like a couple of talking points, and they dunk on just about every theist they ever meet.
That is so interesting that you say that, because Kenzie and I just recently talked about it, how we both don't like debating Christianity because it is so much to read up upon. Like, you really have to know your Bible. You really have to know like counter Bible verses to prove your point as well in many instances. Whereas I enjoy reading like actual like literature about like scientific topics or biology or sex or gender in general. So I find it easier to prepare myself for those kind of debates. But yeah, I would love for you to teach me how to debate Christians. I would love to.
I think like there's like a number of like just killer arguments. I don't know if here's like the time and place. So first of all, you just need to know the responses to all of their arguments, which isn't very hard. None of their arguments are particularly good. Like at the end of the day, it's as if they're trying to prove like the existence of like Superman. Like they're just kind of fundamentally wrong, all of them.
Other than Santa, of course. Like that one is real. That one is real.
Yeah, exactly. But then I think in terms of like the really good arguments, I just don't think there are like particularly good answers to the problem of like natural gratuitous evil. So if you're like, if God's all good, why would he make the sun give us skin cancer? They don't have they really don't have a great answer to that.
Yeah, their only responses to that are free will, greater good,
original sin, that
some
kind of
some
stuff.
other third option. We can't know. Skeptical theism.
Yeah, like all the responses are like really weak, and there's like really good counters to all of them.
It irritates me that they all think that free will is an adequate response to like every single version of the PoE, and it's annoying.
Yeah, I just don't have like the patience maybe because I get bored like with Bible verses like very very easily. I just know like usually I know the basics about like you shall not lay with men and stuff. Like I've looked into that because that comes up quite often when you have like LGBTQ related issue on the panel or on the board.
Or like original sin, or like higher purpose or whatever it is. There's like really good responses to all of these.
Yeah, I'll try the argument
let's go.
about God being a man or whatever he was saying was awesome.
Soul building. Soul building's another theodicy. That's not
Oh God, I fucking hate. I think I've heard like from the more nuanced debate. I've never heard this one on TikTok Live, but in my Discord, I often get like the like reincarnation theodicy, which I think is just like on face like really implausible, and also means that you do in fact think that every event that has ever happened is good, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, all things considered, nothing's actually.
Yeah, like from like God's perspective, like the H cost would
Right.
be good because it like built up the souls of the people in it.
Yeah, that one is nasty. I've heard that one before. But yeah, I don't know, there's probably a lot of people that have questions. I'm gonna follow you and your server, and then I'll just text you there or whatever.
Yeah. Wait, so LSN, what's up? What's your question?
Oh, hello. I think I've kind of like taken a break from debating, but I have been like tuning in very closely to a lot of people debate, specifically the trans topics. And something that I've seen come up like every once in a while that has like, kind of like made me wonder about is the mention of development pathways. I just want to know what the hell they mean when they say that.
Oh, developmental pathways that there's like, or are you talking about in terms of like neurology or?
Or we're just talking about like, biological sex in the context.
Oh, yeah, the development of structure. So there's like two structures. There's like the like Wolferian structure and like Mullerian structure. I'm pretty sure the Mullerian structure is the one that corresponds to females, and the Wolferian structure is the one that corresponds to males. The killer problem, the killer counter to this one, is that there's people with complete androgen insensitivity who have both. So they'd have to classify these people as both male and female, which is against science. These people are classified as male by like literally every person who studies it. So like they're just wrong about it, and you should point that out, that if they try to classify these people as both male and female, then first of all, that means that like male and female is not a true dichotomy. And second of all, that's like just not what the science says. You should be asking them like, so all the scientists are wrong? So they're just all wrong? Like you disagree with them? On what basis? Yeah, that's essentially what they're talking about. Just that people's biology develops along like a specific pathway usually.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
that's-
Rudy. Hey, what's
Hey,
up?
did your
kinda all I had.
they're
I'm gonna
saying
hit
your
outs.
Discord got raided by
Yeah, our Discord did get rated by Christy.
What does that mean?
Yeah, so her like ghouls joined, and then they spammed transphobia, and then we banned all of them. They made a bunch of wild accusations about minors in my Discord, which is fine because I know my Discord very well. It's a 16 plus Discord, and nobody's going to be able to produce like a weird message between like someone who is above the age of 18 and someone who is below the age of 18. I've read like most, if not all, the messages on my Discord. I know that a message of that sort just doesn't exist. So, but no, they were like making wild accusations, like, "Wow, you're really all in here with a bunch of minors," which is funny because I'm pretty sure Christie's Discord doesn't. From what I've been sent, it seems like Christie's Discord doesn't even have like a verification system at all. So.
Oh no, she has a section where they talk about unaliving like trans people, putting pew-pews to their head. They think it's a joke. So she got exposed for that. There's a video about it. I reposted it if anyone wants to watch it from Elijah. So yeah, she's got no room to talk.
Yeah. There's like,
That is
yeah.
wild. That is wild.
I'm supremely unworried. I'm just like fully unworried about like any accusations that could be made about my Discord. I'm very proud of the Discord that I've cultivated.
Same,
But-
me too.
Yeah, we banned all the raiders, and it should be good now.
Someone posted in mine that she commented in hers. Does anyone know how to use Canva to debug Ian's chart? No.
Good luck with that.
Oh my god, I'm living for like God. She must be so mad.
No, I'm sure she is.
Yeah, Ian, you like demolished her.
No, bro, getting like being forced to concede in front of all those people, and like, I think it's really funny because
The way she couldn't
So
even understand like the
bloodbath.
most basic concepts, like the most basic Moodle concepts. It was-
Yeah, she has no idea what like necessary or sufficient
Right.
means. Like, well, it's necessary sometimes, and it's sufficient like sometimes, and it's like, wow, wow.
Yeah, that was
That
oh
was-
my god, face palming.
Like, I still am so confused if she was just pretending not to understand, or if she really did not understand what a necessary or sufficient condition is.
It's impossible to tell, to be honest.
I'm glad you can't tell either. And I just want to let you all know, 10 more minutes, and then I'm sorry, I have to go.
No, it's like totally understandable. You've been it's been very cool to do the conversation. But M. Rudy, what's up? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I first want to say I would love to have a conversation sometime about the existence of God, because I feel like there's logical arguments hold a lot more weight than probabilistic ones, so that'd be fun. So do you go live every day about God, or?
Every day. Sometimes. Well, recently I've been staying up pretty late for reasons, but typically
time
I
are
try to
you
go live
usually-
in the mornings. But I don't know. I think I'm
Okay.
probably gonna shift my schedule around. I might go live later because
Okay.
I'm still probably going to continue to stay up pretty late.
Just quickly, can I ask? You don't have to go in depth into it, but what theodicy do you use, if any, Rudy?
I'm not sure exactly what is theodicy.
A theodicy is
I-
a response to the problem of evil, like an explanation as to why God would have.
I see the
Why God allows evil.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think it's easily turned into a probabilistic argument. I don't think the problem of evil is a logical argument. Because granted,
But the
there is an
logical-
infinitely. Sorry?
The logical problem of evil is a logical argument.
No, because I could just say that any evil that exists, an infinitely good God could pull any great good out of it.
But that
So it
doesn't
becomes
negate the fact that the
probabilistic.
logical problem of evil is a deductive argument. That's it.
Yeah, wait, and that's fine because like if the debate ever happened, because I personally don't run a logical problem of evil, I run an evidential one, which is fine. I do have like logical arguments that I could run, like deductive arguments. I feel like the Christian deductive arguments are like especially bad though. I can't lie. I think I would probably say, and I don't think it's a good argument, but I'd probably say the strongest Christian argument is like tag, the transcendental argument. and
Oh,
that's
no.
not deductive.
What is the transcendental argument?
I'm not going to give you material.
Me? Are you talking to me?
Yeah, so it's basically
I
just
mean,
like
I
how does like mathematics or like how does logic exist objectively
okay.
without like X, Y, and Z. So
Without
I think tag is a bad argument, to be clear. But But all things considered, I think it's like a lot more nuanced than like certain arguments. I think like probably the better arguments are like fine tuning or tag, neither of which are deductive.
Wait, Ian,
Person-
did you really
well,
say that you
person-
think it's
I-
the best one?
What?
Did you say
I
that?
think the argument for motion is the best argument.
I think it's a really bad one.
I mean, I've listened. You probably think the trivial argument is really bad, but once you get into like philosophers like Ed Feser and their renditions of it, I haven't seen one.
Have y'all seen the 50 premise phaser theism argument?
Yeah, I'm not gonna bother with
Christ,
that. I'm not gonna bother.
No, I think I'd rather like just become a Christian than read that.
Yeah.
Oh, based. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think like at the ultimate end of it, you have a universe that is its essence is not equal to its existence. So what actualizes the possibility of this universe being something else?
So its essence is not equal to its existence.
I came back
Yeah.
up here. Mommy Kenzie has spoken. She's about to go in like 10 to 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes. So please, no God debates or no debates.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
It's
I have
okay.
a question.
Just ask
Mommy,
questions.
she's yelling at people from the comments. No debate.
Yeah. Let's not pretend like y'all did not see my comments in caps lock from
No,
the
I'm
debate.
sorry. Athena, I
I
apologize.
was not looking. I'm sorry.
But
It's okay.
yeah, I only have a few minutes left. I want to go to Amy. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to add
Can
anyone
I ask
else.
Can I ask you?
No,
a question
Amy, go
about-
ahead.
Oh,
Amy, go, and then if you have time, you're next.
Thank you, Kenzie. I'll be really quick, and this is not a debate question. I love you, Ian. I had to sub when Christy was out because I had to yell at people in your comments. And my question is, I often play dumb in these debates and make them do all the work, and I only really hit junior varsity or less people. And I'm wondering if you when you use that strategy, if you do or don't recommend using it, if there's like a trap ahead of me that I don't know about.
What do you mean
I
by
don't
playing?
know.
What do you mean when you say like you've been like playing dumb?
Like, oh, what do you think a woman is? I don't really know. I just kind of sure. I let people
I
tell
don't
me.
think
Well, I
that's
think it's
good.
this. Well, and it gets them kind of worked up and trapped. But I might be, finding myself into a corner I don't know about. So do you?
So this like I guess like this works against people who like root a solid position that like trans women are not women or trans men are not men. Then like being agnostic and like just pointing out there's flaws in their definition, that's fine,
Yeah.
I guess. But there's no way to prove that like trans women are women or that trans men are men unless you have like a solid definition. That's gonna be like the logical problem that you're gonna run into. There's
So,
just going to be like a
if
gap
I'm not
between.
trying to prove it. Like if I'm trying to say, tell me why this is a problem. Tell me why trans people are a problem. Educate me, everyone. And then I just keep pointing out how it isn't working to educate me because I don't get it. You seem to have a flaw opponent. Here's another flaw opponent, and they never can convince me because I'm just so unconvincible about it. It's worked, but I'm not super hitting the smart people.
I think that's a strategy for winning debates, not a strategy for making people more sympathetic to trans people.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Yeah, I also think like, and even that, I think that's like capped in terms of its ability to win debates because I think that there's like no world in which you don't give a definition where anyone is ever going to conclude that like trans men are men or like trans women are women. Like
Right.
it just
Like-
doesn't follow from the fact that their definition isn't logically consistent that suddenly trans women are women, trans men are men.
I see.
I
So
think you
I'm-
need to put
I'm
forward like
taking
an
no
affirmative
position.
definition.
I'm taking like no position, so it's not good enough. Like if I take the most broad position, like I believe it's so if they tell me so, that
Yeah.
eventually I'm going to be too weak to keep going, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say there's definitions that work really well. Like I just say,
Okay.
for example, like a woman is someone with a set of mind states that align with a set of social extensions typically deemed to the female sex or something like that. Normally
Right.
people use very similar definitions.
Yeah, that's what I found is that everyone who's thought about this issue uses like roughly the same definition, just in different words. Like I think your definition is like roughly identical to mine.
Yeah, and then from there I'm just kind of dumb. Hey, you try to convince me, and then I just keep blowing holes in whatever they're using to convince me. It doesn't get me very far, but I also haven't hit very smart people, so I'm feeling insecure about it. I don't want to represent wrong. So I
Yeah, that's
appreciate
no,
your
and that's good. You
looking
should
holes
if you're in my Discord, you should definitely like, consider checking out like the flow chart. It's good.
Oh, definitely. I'll be there in 2 seconds. I appreciate you. Thank you for letting me up, Kenzie. I appreciate it.
Oh, for sure, Amy. Murdy, did you have anything you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I haven't gotten deep into the philosophy with transgenderism and stuff. I just had a quick question. Are
What we
so
call it?
Anthony.
Yeah.
Charlotte Witt.
Yeah, transgender. Like, yeah, that's not like transgenderism is what the right uses as.
Yeah.
sorry. What would be better?
Just like talk about like trans people. You haven't gotten into like trans validity maybe, or like I don't know.
So what should I say instead of that?
Yeah, trans philosophy. Would be
Just,
the-
Okay,
you know,
so
there's
I haven't gotten
there's actually an anthology coming out of trans philosophy.
Oh wow.
It's coming out sometime this year or next year. I can't remember. It's gonna. I'm trying to remember the title. Wait, let me pull it up right quick because I have it bookmarked.
It's like a book releasing like a set of papers.
Yeah, it's like an anthology. It's like a.
Yeah.
Here it goes. It is
'Cause
called
Sorry.
Trans Philosophy, Meaning and Mattering. It will be the first authoritative collection to establish trans philosophy as a unique field of inquiry. It defines trans philosophy as philosophical work that is accountable to and eliminative of transgender experiences, histories, culture production, and politics. The book will showcase work from a range of fresh and established voices in this nation field. It will address a variety of topics such as embodiment, identity, language, law, politics, transphobia, etc. Utilize diverse philosophical methods, for example, analytic, continental, pluralist, theoretical, experimental, applied, etc., and attend to significant intersections between trans identity and class, disability, race, and sexuality. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I
Wait.
used to have. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask like Rudy, do you have like a question specifically?
Oh yeah. So sorry. Could you really quick state your definition that you had for
Yeah.
like a woman?
Yep. So my definition specifically, so it's gonna be like analogous for like a man and a woman, but it's just that a man is an adult human whose gender identity maps onto the gender societally associated with males. So we have a gender identity. It's the way that we desire to be gendered. Men desire to be gendered as men. Women desire to be gendered as women. Non-binary people desire to be gendered as neither. So we have a gender identity. It creates a desire for how we're gendered, and there are gender categories that exist in the society. This is like man, woman, other, etc. So our gender identity, our desire to be gendered, maps onto, gender identity creates a desire to be gendered. Desire to be gendered maps onto a specific like gender category, and thus like a man is essentially going to be someone who desires to be gendered as a man. A woman is essentially going to be someone who desires to be gendered as a woman. But of course, if you want like the non-circular definition, that means the exact same thing. It is what I said at the beginning. A man is an adult human whose gender identity maps onto the gender societally associated with males.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Are there any identities that kind of fit that same framework, but we don't consider? Like for example, like it sounds pretty familiar with like I think is it called BIID? It's like body. I'm not sure, but I like a.
Are you asking about like why is transgender people valid and but transracialism isn't, or?
Yeah, like these other identities that.
Yep. So to me, the difference is just going to be a difference between like internal subjectivity and like external factors that. And Athena is here, and she could give you a great account of like why transracialism isn't valid specifically, but it's going to come down to like transgender people have a gender identity, which is like a desire to be gendered in a specific way. Whereas like in Athena's words, like the only reason that like she knew her race at any point is because of the ways that she's been like racialized externally. That there's not like a racial identity that exists as like anything other than like a thing that other people impose onto her. But if she wants to talk more about that, I'd love to. I think she'll probably get like a better explanation.
But how is there a distinction there if in the definition for a woman it's based on external factors?
No, but
sorry, go ahead. You.
Yeah, no. It's so the determining factor in my definition is gender identity. It's an internal factor. It's like internally, what do you desire?
But But you desire but in your definition for a woman, you desire to be gendered as with a
It's like
woman,
as the social category society, or as the gender category
yes.
societally
So it's
associated
based
with
on an
females.
external factor, is what I'm
There's
saying.
there's
But
like an
with the
there's like an external factor involved, but the ultimate determinant is just like it's going to come down ultimately to your desires. And of course, like desire points outside of the self, like it points to external things, but the factor, like the determining factor itself, is internal. It's a subjective experience.
yeah. So, but
Whereas
why
with
can I make
race,
that?
it isn't. With race, you don't desire to be categorized into different racial classifications. You're automatically classified by the society that you live in, depending on how that society categorizes your phenotypical characteristics. So, for example, a person, like a black person, doesn't like identify as black because they're trying to be true to their internal sense of self. The only reason like a person would identify as black is if the society you live in decides to categorize you as black and kind of force you into that political and legal category. There is no internal identification when it comes to, or internal categorization when it comes to race. It's purely literally somebody classifying you based on your phenotypical characteristics as black, and that also determining your positionality within the society you live in. Two different things. Also, transracial was literally like transracial is referring like to adoptions, transracial adoptions, and a lot of people decided to kind of weaponize that against trans communities, only to invalidate trans identity and not necessarily to actually like, I don't know, feel comfortable within their own skin.
Yeah.
But
I'm
I would
sorry.
love to have this debate with you on another live because Kenzie is about to
Oh,
go.
sorry.
If you
I'm
want,
sorry.
Emrudy, we can have this conversation on another live. I don't
Okay.
usually host, but
It's more of a just a curiosity.
I would be happy to host that another time, but I do apologize. I have to go.
Yeah, for sure.
Before I do, I just want to thank Ian. You've been so gracious. I
Oh,
appreciate
so
you
much.
joining. I appreciate you just giving us your wealth of knowledge and like participating in the content. It really I really enjoyed today's live, so thank you so much for being
Yeah, I enjoyed today's live too. Thanks so much for having me up. Thanks so much for like boosting my content. I really appreciate it. It's very kind of you.
No, they're good arguments.
W Kenzie and W Ian
Thank
in
you
the
all.
comments, please. Anyways, yeah.
Thank you guys so much. We will
Thank
see
you for letting me come up.
Follow the panel. Definitely. I don't know. Is anyone else going live? Did you guys want to plug a live? Okay.
No, it's
we
okay.
can no.
But I appreciate it.
We will see you next time. Thanks again.